Hello friends, it is a full moon aftermath. Relationships are on a reboot. They're retiring or they are dying and leaving for good. In today's Namaste Today, we're going to talk about the transition from Libra into Scorpio. Hello, welcome to Namaste Today Live. I'm your host, Psychic Astrologer Sensei Christopher Witecki. I'm the trusted channel to the step astrology method and the conscious operating system of human incarnation. And this is known as Namaste Today Live, where I come to you week by week to help you through the planets. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X.com, and Instagram at the same time. We're also involved with a super chat. If you comment or chat in any of these places, it's brought together in one live chat. Do your friends and family a favor and tell us where you're chatting from and what your astrology sign is. We'll say hi at the end of the show. We have a powerful show tonight, actually. My voice is a little hoarse. I've been through the ringer. You may have too. We have a full moon aftermath going on right now. I think everyone is feeling. And we're going to be talking about some deep things happening this week, including a major turn of events as the Sun squares Pluto later this week. It's going to be a huge, dramatic Step 29 change. We also have on MINGLE tonight, hospice nurse and online educator Julie McFadden is here to talk the inevitable processing of dying and how her mission is to take away the fear from physical death. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Saturday, October 19th to Friday, October 25th, 2024. Looking first at the weekend forecast. Over the weekend, we wrap up our core decisions about whether or not to continue in a relationship for long term. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and valuable. The moon in Taurus makes you feel and know your worth. Step 26 means Saturn rules the day. Knowing your worth with Saturn tells us you're ready to decide and commit to what the peace deal will be or the future will become. You're also upgrading your personal boundaries, and once the moon moves into Gemini, you're ready to communicate the change. On Sunday, it's sunny and rather animated. Step 27 gives us a Mars-ruled day. It's time to move forward now with what you want to do in relationships. You could say it's time to shake on it. You are receiving the conviction that this is the right thing to do. And again, a moon in Gemini makes it easier than usual to communicate the truth with one another. Now let's zip ahead and take a look at the 5-day weekday forecast in the upcoming week. In this upcoming week, we transition from wrapping up the Libra energy and diving deep into intimate Scorpio. On Monday, it's sunny and rather chatty. Step 28 indicates that Earth rules the day. This is a day where you love and protect what you have served and created. This is where you honor all of your agreements in your relationships and wait for things to gel. What you'll receive is the real value of these changes, and you're initiating the transfer of power from the we to the me or vice versa. With the moon in Gemini, then Cancer, it starts very heady, but then gets deep in your feelings, and this may be the first time you mourn the changes of your relationships. On Tuesday, it's partly cloudy and weighing. Step 29 indicates Chiron rules the day. This is the day where you'll receive justice, and you are testing the balance potential of everything. You could say this is a real test as to whether the marriage or divorce is going to work out. And several planets indicate that there is a major change in karma. Mostly the Sun squaring Pluto, a major test of heart and personal power, and then the Sun entering Scorpio, indicating the end of relationships and the beginning of drawing lines. On Wednesday, it's cloudy and rather sensitive. Step 0 means this is a Grandmaster Pluto-ruled day. You are redefining boundaries with yourself. You could say it is a rebirth or the rising of the phoenix. What you are protecting on this day is everything, and you are feeling out how you feel as far as safety is concerned. This day will be a strange day, but a strong day as you are deepening your roots and feeling more grounded. On Thursday, it's cloudy and moody. Step 1 indicates the Sun rules the day, so this is a day of protecting self-love. The moodiness is due to the fact that you may feel you haven't protected self-love as well as you can. You are going to clarify your emotional boundaries to make you feel safe and nurtured. And with Mars sextiling Uranus, it's now time to get moving on some sort of construction or deconstruction project. The moon in Leo amplifies that connection to the heart. And then on Friday, it's cloudy and hopeful. Step 2 means the moon rules the day, and with the moon in Leo, it means your heart and feelings rule the day. And this is precisely what you must protect, are those feelings and your heart. But as you bring up those walls and shelter out the gooey, you're going to find that you are changing how you feel about your story, and perhaps this is just the beginning of something magnificent ahead.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
Please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please like this video so the YouTube algorithm will suggest us to other astrology fans. Namaste Today Live is sponsored this week by the Arcanimal Tarot and Oracle Deck Certification Course by Bernadette King. This is a new psychic reader course that she's presenting. She has been sort of kind of standing on this as her own. She's been holding up as one of the best animal interpreters, I think, in the world. I think she's phenomenal. And she's now sharing her wisdom. This is going to be a very exclusive course. It'll begin sometime in January. There'll be a couple of bonus classes for those who sign up now. And you'll learn all about the practical way to interpret the animal kingdom, which, by the way, is one of the most profound and grounded ways to do astrological readings with people, because she's already tied these animals to astrology. She's tied these animals to the tarot deck. So it's a real unifying force and a grounded force for people who are maybe afraid of the esoteric. You will learn species communication with the animals, and not only is it species communication, she can actually speak to the owl kingdom or the lion kingdom without even leaving her chair. And yes, if she walks in front of a lion, she uses the same animal technique. So it's pretty remarkable. It's not just reading tarot, it's reading animals and speaking with animals. You'll also hone your psychic skills and your practice, and she'll provide inside tips and tricks to running your own spiritual business, all for this one price that you can't beat. If you want to be involved with it, you just email seriousjoy.com with the hashtag ARC, and she'll provide for you a $100 discount for the course. I recommend taking it, but if you don't believe me, let's roll this tape and see other reasons why.
Aroo, Wild Pack, it's Mama Bear, aka Bernadette, the Arcanimal Tarot and Oracle certification class that you guys have asked me for 4 years. 4 years you've been asking. It's finally coming. It will be out this week. If we haven't met yet, I'm Mama Bear, and I always read with my own deck, the Arcanimal Tarot and Oracle deck, 223-page book. There are 149 cards. It's a big old deck, but there were a lot of animals that wanted to be in it. And animals don't play. When they want something, they want it, and that's that. So just give up the ghost and just do what you're supposed to do, please, which is follow your heart, follow your calling, follow your, oh wait, what are they called? Natural instincts.
She's a hoot, really. I'm the busy beaver. She calls me Beaver. I call her Mama Bear. And we've become so close with her. She's amazing. Again, if you want to be a part of it, you can get $100 off by emailing support@seriousjoy.com and hashtag art in the subject line. We'll be hearing more and covering more as the time unfolds for her. And without further ado, it's time for our planets and transits. Holy shift, the energy has been intense indeed, my friends. I underestimated how powerful this full moon that hit us yesterday morning in Aries has been. The full moon in Aries was at step 24, which nets to a 6 Libra, and the sun at 24 degrees Libra. So this is a grandmaster programming for us to accept and receive a new way of relating. Little did I know that it would have a lot more fault than I expected. I will officially say I am very grateful and want to say farewell for now to 2 of our staff members, Devin Dewar, our angel communicator, and Heather Exposito, who is our founder, one of the 4 founders of Serious Joy, and also the creator of our daily download. Both ladies were called to another mission and to do something else in their life, and that's something that I have to say I have no choice but to respect and honor. It's one of the many changes that we've been expecting to have happen, not these 2 ladies, but for people who are fixtures of certain situations to move on to be the fixtures of another. That's because the new era is upon us. And from our calculations on our astrological staff, we believe that we are going to be really transitioning completely to the new era in the first week of Scorpio, which is going to be next week in essence. Actually, the second week of Scorpio. Technically, half the week next week is Scorpio, half the week is Libra, and I'm basically reporting on the half and half. It's the following week, which is the week before Halloween, that we're going to officially shift eras once and for all. Now, what do I mean by that, you may be asking? Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to our family here at Namaste Today. We are in a very important moment in human history. We're at a point where we have now switched gears. It may not be obvious. It's probably obvious to those who follow these things like us. To others, it may not be so apparent, but there are basically two eras that you were born to live. There was the story you were born to, which was the story that you were born in your family, which resulted in the karma, which is the issues and hang-ups you have from past lives. We have all been going through the dark ages, and in this lifetime we have begun to ascend. This is the dawn of the age of Aquarius. That means that we are starting to raise the ceiling of higher vibration, and this is represented by Pluto moving to Aquarius, and also by us facing the density of our old past and our traumas. So, for anyone born from now until whenever till now, you have had to leave and process your karma that you've had in past lives. This basically began the processing in Neptune in Pisces in 2012, and began to accelerate when Saturn entered into Pisces in 2022. That's when it happened. So we've been accelerating. And this year, what was remarkable is that we finally completed in March all of our karma with ourself. And for the most part, that's the most important karma. That's the only karma God consciousness cares about, is how you relate to you. So having completed how we relate to ourselves, sometime around late March, early April, we then rebirthed a new ego, which was the grand solar eclipse at 19 degrees Aries on April 7th. We began to reformulate our values with the sun in Taurus. We began to think differently with the sun in Gemini. We began to declare our emotional hazards and emotional traumas with the sun in Cancer. We realigned our heart with what we really want in the sun in Leo. We became and embodied that intention with the sun in Virgo. And we just finished up our relationships with ourselves, for one. That was the first 10 degrees. Our relationships with others. And the last 10 degrees in this week, our relationship to the big picture. So what is your relationship to others at large? What is your policy for relationships? What represents a perfect relationship for you? What is a relationship worth living, right? And that's what we are basically wrapping up with this week. We are committing to this perfect union, if you will. What is the perfect union? What is the fairness? What does that involve? Now, I'll give you the secret formula to what that involves, but we are, in essence, have already lived it. The full moon in Aries yesterday morning and Thursday was at step 24. Step 24 is the Grandmaster step of Libra. Grandmaster means it's the pure step. It is the pure form or God's intention behind the consciousness. The intention is where you feel you belong, where you feel at home, where you feel you belong, where it nets to a 6, which is peace and tranquility. We belong in relationships that allow our hearts to be open. We belong in relationships that allow the equal giving and exchanging of energy and ideas and love. We belong in relationships where the vibrations match. That's the 4 and the 24. Those are the types of relationships we belong in. And there are subtleties, of course. I mean, sometimes I match 90% with someone, but not 100%. That's okay, because that other percentage can be agreed upon or compromised. But for the most part, if we don't feel like we belong with that person or that situation or that thing, and the idea of belonging is a spiritual energy that, frankly, human beings have not been open to in a long time. That's what the age of Aquarius is. The age of Aquarius is the age of belonging. But what is belonging at a metaphysical level? Well, belonging can come down to a couple of things. In fact, you can look at the nature of 4 itself. Number 4, step 4, I belong. What will make it a belonging? Well, you can believe and love. 3 plus 1 makes 4. So believing and loving will make belonging. I believe in it and I love it. So if you believe and love in that person, you belong there. But you can also feel yourself and feel that person. 2 plus 2 also makes 4. So if you both feel like you belong or you feel like you get along, then you belong. Those are 2 equations. So energetically, what we're looking for are those equations of belonging with someone else. And if we don't belong, we aren't meant to do the work to stay there. And that's, I think, the myth. I think there's this myth out there that we're all supposed to get along. Well, God consciousness says that's not true. We aren't all supposed to get along. Now, one thing we are supposed to do is tolerate those who are different. That is true. We are meant to tolerate. So if I don't belong with you, that doesn't mean you belong dead, or you belong, vanished from the world, or you belong being, hurt or criticized or judged. That does not belong. So there's a lot of understanding of belonging that we don't have. The last time we lived an age of belonging was 26,000 years ago in the birth of Atlantis. That's right. And that was the birth of Atlantis. From my understanding, the Atlantis civilization lasted around 3,000 years or so and had everything from electronics to flying vehicles to phones. I mean, the whole 9 yards. They had everything as far as technology. We tend to think of them as like tribal and fruit eating, but not what our records and our consciousness is really showing. So what has happened is that we went through the dark ages, the earth fell, the solar system that we are in called our solar system and the Milky Way fell out of a certain band of consciousness, a band of photons. And so as we fell out of the band, we went through the dark ages, which is where the high frequencies compressed just to low frequencies, which is what we call density. And that density is that everything is compacted, right? And sort of underground and tight. So because of the tightness, you can think of like high bass notes sort of playing in the world. We were not able to read the treble notes or the high vibration notes. And we have, as humans, really not been able to hear these high notes, these high frequencies, until recently. We're just now starting to be able to hear them and open up to them. There's a few things necessary for us to get to that high vibration. One was the elimination of low vibration. All right. So over the years of incarnating, human beings have been hurt, damaged, traumatized. All sorts of dark things have happened to us. And each painful memory is something we hold on to and something we regret. You could say the soul regrets it. The soul can't consciously move past it. And that is what we call our karma. Our karma is something we can't move past. You have good karma and you have bad karma. For instance, I can't move past the fact that I'm a pretty good astrologer. That's my good karma. I remember it. I want to be it. I want to grow upon it. So we have karma that we want to add to and continue, and we have karma that we want to discontinue. So from 2012 until Saturn in Pisces, we were becoming awakened to all of our karma, which is both our sleeping talents and also our sleeping painful memories. In some cases, we saw evidence of these painful memories already in play, and we didn't understand why they kept happening to us. The best way to recognize karma are patterns that continue over and over again in different forms. For instance, the pattern of abandonment. You may have the karmic pattern of being abandoned. And this would be that, in one lifetime, you were, left by your parents. In the next lifetime, you were left by your husband. In the next lifetime, you abandoned yourself by being an alcoholic. Then the next lifetime, you abandoned your own family because you couldn't stop alcohol, and so on and so forth. And we build upon these sort of worms of karmic lineage where we have over and over and over abandoned ourselves or abandoned others in this pattern of abandonment. So to understand karma has been to understand the patterns. In this life, you might have seen, yes, I was fired from this job. This company abandoned me. Or someone I was working with decided to abandon what we were doing. Or I abandoned myself when I, negotiated the new car. And so what has come to be is in this last, I'm looking at 13 years of basically Neptune and Pisces, we have recognized the patterns in essence. And the pattern is, let's say, abandonment. There's other patterns too. What's happened in this year is we finally got to the core. Once Saturn went into Pisces, we had the ability to decide and to decide to respond differently. And I have to say, because there's still a lot of time for people to figure out their karma, that the trick to ending karma is not trying to control the outer world, because the outer world is completely a reflection of your inner world. The trick is what happens after the karmic pattern. So it's not that you are abandoned, it's what you do when you find yourself having been abandoned. It's the response to yourself that ends the karma. It's the response, not the initiation. So you can set out trying to not abandon someone, but once something starts to happen, when something does inevitably become abandoned, you want to respond differently. And usually the respond differently is, quite frankly, the opposite. So rather than abandon, embrace. Okay, rather than go cold, love. Rather than fail to nurture, nurture and nourish, right? So what's so interesting is this last month of Libra has really been the reflection of our karma in others. You may not realize it, but every person in your life is a reflection of who you are. From what I understand, from Saint Germain and other masters that I have learned from, every person in your life, I mean, the architecture of reality is very interesting. It's my biggest fascination. What God created here is incredible. But from what I have learned, right now, you and I are in a meditation in heaven. We are not even here. This is a simulation. And so we go into this gross meditation where you fall asleep up in heaven. Your memory is erased for the time being. And you come down and you cast yourself, you light cast yourself and your entity into this conscious matrix. In this matrix, everyone is actually creating all of their reality. So all of you in the chat, yes, you exist and you have free will, but you are doing in my life what I want you to do. You're not doing what you want to do. You may think you are, but you're not. I am playing a character that you want me to play. You are playing a character that I want you to play. We are not really interacting literally here on Earth. We are reacting virtually, and I am interpreting and seeing your behavior according to my karmic needs. I actually think that to some degree, we lend our consciousness to our friends, but we're not really controlling what our consciousness does. So in other words, in one timeline, you might be being mean to me. In another timeline, you are being nice to me. Was that your doing? Not at all. All you're doing is to be who you are. And then I am taking what I want from your personality and I'm manifesting the perfect avatar situation. So from what I understand, none of this is real. And what happens between each of us is not really real. And the way people treat you is not really real. It's according to what you have come to learn. So there is no absolute truth. It's all virtual. That said, in the last 20 days or so, as we've been experiencing our relationships to others, no matter what you think another person is doing or being, they are giving you precisely what you want to see in order for you to learn in the matrix, for you to learn here on Earth. That person is not who they seem to be. Their purity is up in heaven. We only know the essence of who they are, and we recognize that essence. Yes, there is choice in how they respond. I think I can't pretend to understand the whole matrix, but a person will treat me a certain way, and that certain way would be the way they would do it, but what they do is what I've asked for. So the hard part of ascension is realizing the truth of the matrix, that this is all you. This is all you. You've created all this. And so when someone treats you nice, it's because you needed someone to treat you nice. And when someone treats you poorly, it's because you needed someone to treat you poorly. Would that person or that entity be that way in the heaven realms? Probably not. It's just a role they are playing here on Earth. So we are coming to a new relationship ultimately with this full moon. And this full moon says, hey, everyone must be where they feel they belong from this point forward. That is the new commandment. And since Sun is at 24 Libra, it is the rule for the next year. This means that it will be very difficult to have toxic relationships in your life. And no matter how important someone feels to you or how much you feel like you need them, if they don't have the same frequency as you, they're not vibrating at the same rate, they're going to be pulled away, in my opinion, from your life, and you're going to be introduced to people who feel where you do belong. And this will happen for the next 6 months or so. I expect the transition and the migration to be complete as of April 1st of next year. I also expect things to really get really shifty when that happens. So we're about to go into the Sun in Scorpio. And what that is ultimately the line that we draw, all right? The lines that we draw are where we end and we begin. So, right now it's all been theoretical. You haven't really drawn the line. You might have said to somebody, I'm done with you. I don't want to be in your life anymore. But you haven't really drawn the line. It's only when the Sun goes into Scorpio that the line is drawn. In fact, the Sun in Scorpio means that the Sun goes to 0. So 1 goes to 0 in Scorpio. And 0 is nothingness. It is everything and nothing at the same time. Technically, Scorpio is the astrological new year. So the New Year's Eve is actually when the full moon of Taurus happens, which this year I think happens in November. It doesn't happen around Halloween. So interestingly enough, when the Sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus, this is the rebirth of the new era or the rebirth of the new year, because the Sun goes to 0. It zeroes out all energy, and the Earth goes to 10, which means it holds an emotional spot for I manifest. So from 0 to I manifest, from 0 to 10, that is the new year. The pagans knew this. The ancients knew this. Some a-hole Roman or someone changed it. I don't know how. I don't have the history there, but someone changed it to Capricorn. Probably a Capricorn changed it to Capricorn. They wanted the new year to be in Capricorn. Capricorns also wanted Christmas to be in Capricorn. I blame the Capricorns. The ancient Capricorns, I'm not blaming the modern ones. But ultimately it was some sort of a control mechanism to move both Christmas and the New Year in Capricorn. And here we are still living it. But technically, we should be doing New Year's in this time of year, and it should be relative to wherever the full moon in Taurus happens to be, because it does move through the step numbers. That said, we begin a new year, and this time it's not just a new year, it's a new era. What's the difference? An era is a longer period of time where humans learn a fundamental principle, and this era that we're about to enter into is the dawn of the age of Aquarius. That is, this is the era of people waking up and realizing that we have been asleep, realizing that we have so much more potential, that we've been organized according to in a lot of situations, ignorant. We did not apply certain things and we made certain rules. And honestly, I can say, in the age of Pisces, it has all been about really control and domination. This new age of Aquarius is really about things flowing perfectly, where vibrations flow with vibrations, where everyone gets along, where two hearts beat as one. So this period we're about to go into, a-hole Roman, yeah, exactly. This period we're about to go into is one that's going to be somewhat painful, I have to say, especially if you have not drawn your boundaries with yourself. Because if you're not clear with yourself, then being cut off from what you have been expecting in the world is going to be very painful. Because people have become codependent on other people's energy. People have been talked into putting their power into other things, such as putting your power into government, or putting your power into money, putting your power into computers and internet, putting your power into particular religions. And that's not where your power is, folks. Your power is within you. You are a child of God. And human beings are very special. I had an interview with Wendy Kennedy in the Palladians not too long ago, and she reiterated, and the Palladians reiterated in that interview, that human beings are some of the most special creatures in the entire universe. That's why we're being watched over by the aliens. It's because we have special features that have never been endowed to other aliens before. Those two special features, she said, was creation and creativity and compassion. That we are unique in the fact that we can feel the pain of others and that we can create something. We're the only creatures that God universe has given us the power to create. So this idea of manifestation and creation, it only exists on Earth. A gray alien cannot manifest, for instance. Other aliens cannot manifest, from what I understand. They don't have their world literally manifest what they want. Earth is an experiment from God consciousness, the latest and the greatest of what human beings, of what entities have been offered, where we have literally a connection between the individual and its environment. That is completely new, okay? Other alien species, they do have a connection, but not a creative connection, the ability to have Mother Earth receive and create and draw in, right? Mother Earth is a big facilitator of this. So what we have been living in the Dark Ages is we've been living in a dark period of not understanding and realizing that the nature of our reality is designed to fulfill all of our needs, that we are in fact gods in training here on the earth, and that we don't need Mother Earth per se with material goods. We don't need necessarily people to all adhere to one government or one policy. All we need to adhere to is the fact that we are children of God and that we have the potential to create reality all the time. So this is ultimately where the big hammer is being hit. Scorpio is going to lay the hammer down. In essence, put a stop to this overreaching of certain powers and interests on the planet so that people can return to their spiritual truth of who they are and what they're here to do, which is to create. This is a huge art class, is what this lifetime is. This is a huge training class for living in your divine creativity, living your heart, and seeing what beauty you can create here with the power of being human. Incidentally, it's my understanding that there's a long waiting list to incarnate on Earth. It is a special privilege that you are even here right now. It's not something that's just given, all right? You have to already have proven yourself in other systems or be born as a brand new soul to this system. Being on Earth is very special. So first and foremost, I think that we should focus on protecting and honoring that we are here in the first place. That is not necessarily a sentence, but we've allowed other beings and other humans to take our power from us. We've given our power away. And so we find ourselves in a very painful moment upon really a future jubilee. I'm also convinced that there is no unhappy ending. There isn't. The idea that darker forces could take away our power is not true. from what I've understood, with talking to Saint Germain on the other side, talking to entities such as Mary Magdalene I've spoken to recently, and also even the Palladians. We are here to bring sovereignty and light to the individual, and that is the way, period. That is the way. So with that said, let's take a look now at some of our planets. I think I spoke through that a little bit too long. I've been learning to do that in 15 minutes. It's so fun to get on a high rise. Let's start with our planets and just look through what's going on this week and what we're going to process. Let's start first with our sun in Libra. The sun in Libra this week goes from 26 to Scorpio. And so overall, 26 is the commitment. So Saturday, you commit to the relationships you want, to the future, what you consider as marriage, or what you consider as long-term relationships. And so we go into Scorpio. I'll talk about that. And then we go to 3 Scorpio. We'll talk about that in a moment. So this is the wrapping up. 26 is commitment. 27 is go for it on Sunday. 28 is hold space on Monday. 29 is tested on Tuesday. Tuesday is the most tested day. Black Moon Lilith goes from 12 to 13 degrees, which means that we will face fears of chaos when she hits 13 degrees. We're going to face fears of displacement, chaos, and breakdown. The South Node stays at 6 all week long, but will move to step 5 soon this month, which is a big deal, which means that you are leaving an old relationship of yourself to yourself. You're leaving that old relationship behind, and you're embracing a new marriage. By the way, it's been at step 6 for 96 days or 98 days. No, 68 days. Excuse me, Robbie. 68 days total. Pretty powerful when it's at one step. Moving into Scorpio, the sun this week goes from 0 to 3 degrees Scorpio. So this means we're going to fortify our roots. We're going to refortify our connection to ourselves. We're going to refortify our connection to our heart, refortify our connection to our feelings, and refortify our connections to our beliefs. What does that mean? Only your heart, feelings, and beliefs matter this week. Only yours, all right? Putting your power in someone else is going to end up in problems for yourself. On the other hand, Mercury moves from 8 to 19, which means we're thinking through all the boundaries that we need to have with ourselves and with people in our daily life. So you will think through the boundaries necessary for you in your daily life this week. Moving on to Sagittarius. Venus is ahead in Sagittarius. She moves from 2 to 10 degrees Sag, which means you're going to open up to new philosophies about yourself, new beliefs about yourself, and stay open. You are not going to be the same person you were up until this point. You will not, okay? You'll most likely be more true to yourself. There probably won't be any big departures from who you are, but in essence, who you've been so far has been your damaged self. It has not been your true self. So open up to these new beliefs about yourself. Maybe you believed it one day, but now you may believe another. Remember, a belief is what your heart feels. It's not from evidence. So your heart will feel differently, is what I'm saying, about who you are and who you're not. Looking at the moon through the week, the moon right now is in Taurus, which is good. I'm meaning that. And that means that we are manifesting. So Saturday and to late Saturday, it's in Taurus, moves into Gemini late Saturday. Saturday night, Sunday, and Monday, the moon is in Gemini and will cross Jupiter. That means that we're going to be exploring our thoughts and ideas and intertwining new beliefs and new ideas and messages. And then the moon goes into Cancer late Monday through Wednesday. And that ultimately means that we're going to be really feeling deeply a lot of our issues. So Monday through Wednesday, late Monday night through Wednesday is going to be the most emotional. In fact, the most emotional is going to be Tuesday. So Tuesday, I'm expecting breakdowns of crying, release, diarrhea. I mean, basically you get rid of all the water in your body because water holds memory. So you're going to be releasing a lot of water. If you don't have some sort of physical release, drink lots of water, pure water, but realize that's going to be it. And then late Wednesday, the moon goes into Leo. So we start to have the sun come out. And by the way, that sun comes out right when the sun goes into Scorpio, almost the exact moment. So it's literally sort of a, here comes the sun. It's kind of that sort of a moment. You're going to feel the sun being born. And this is part of the new era. So that moon in Leo is the mark of the sun being born, of the heart being born, the new heart, and the new expression of yourself. And you're going to feel that newness from Wednesday until Friday. So really expressing the heart. Now that heart is there to help you remember who the heart of you is and to help you get to the roots of who you really are at the core. So people might be kind of going off in private during that time, which would be, I think, a healthy thing to do. Moving on to Capricorn, that bastard Pluto's at step 29 for the entire week. And, this is a good point to tell you. I'm going to be doing a special webinar and workshop coming up, which basically involves helping you with Pluto. And you can sign up in my website, senseiChristopher.com. It's called Pluto's Last Stand. It's a webinar that I'm doing on November 2nd. I also have a new feature where you can make sure you get a question answered in the webinar. What we do in this, and I just tested this out with my diamonds, we're going to look at your native Pluto, and we're going to understand what you are here to protect first and foremost. Then we'll look at where Pluto is in the 29th degree and make sure that you can pull this off and that you have all the tools necessary. This is very important. You want to get this right, because when Pluto goes into Aquarius, you will be focused on other things. It'll be very difficult to change the rules. So again, senseiChristopher.com, or hit the QR code for a 2-hour webinar on November 2nd about Pluto's last stand, where you can really understand. It's a workshop. So you bring your chart and we work through your chart. Okay, it's going to be good. So yeah, Pluto's at 29 this whole week. Moving on to Cancer. Mars in Cancer is stirring things up. This is us reacting to certain things, emotionally reacting to things. You have your ego here responding to things about the future. Now, I think for many people, this is going to be issues around politics, issues around what's going on in the world. Try not to get too wrapped up in what's going on in the world, because it doesn't really matter. We're about to change, and so whatever you see happening may not be what happens. It doesn't really matter who is president, by the way, because the shift is going to happen with or without that president. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter. It's scheduled to happen, period. So one of the things that we've falsely given our power to is this falsely elected government. And when I say falsely, I mean there's all sorts of trickery all up and down the election process. So really, it's time to really react, respond to your emotions as it gives power back to you, and respond emotionally so that you feel empowered and that you don't let anything outside of you take away your power. But this is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Irritable period of Mars in Cancer there. And Mars will be in this area for quite a long time. Moving on to the Aries constellation. The North Node in Aries is at 6 all week, like I mentioned. So we want to continue forward with the best practices for our mirror to take care of ourselves. And Chiron retrogrades from 21 to 20. Now, this is a little dangerous because 20 is a volatile degree. It is a wizard's degree, and it means that anything and everything can happen in that 0. So this is a degree where people can slip back when it comes to their approach about the future. Let's say after the last election, you said, I'm not getting involved at all with election politics. I don't care anymore, and I'm not going to get caught up in it. Well, Chiron at 20 could pull you back in. All right, so it is a slippery slope. The important number there is the 0 and the 20. The 0 is that you want to create a boundary that protects yourself from the world's feelings. So being protected from the world's feelings is the ultimate guide here. And if you still have holes in that safety net, then you may find yourself sucked into the drama. So be conscious of that. That happens. Now looking at this, looking at the south node of Libra, which I don't see here. Okay, yeah, we had that. We'll go to Pisces. So in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces is at 13 all week. That's a volatile degree. That means that we must follow what our heart believes. And what your heart believes is net for where you belong, okay? The problem is that other people are will try to convince you what they believe. So people who come from a weak belief structure will try to convince you that their belief is better than your belief. That's what 13 means to revolution. It's a fighting over what beliefs matter. And the problem is that we try to project our beliefs onto others instead of fortify our belief in ourselves. So Saturn 13 does mean that Saturn, a line will be drawn, power will be drawn according to what your heart believes. So stay on the path of what your heart believes. Don't put any energy into convincing others that you're right and they're wrong. That's a way to give away your power and weaken your position. Neptune, on the other hand, has moved to step 27, which means that the new karma is in play, the new timeline is in play, the new destiny is now moving forward. So we know that, but Neptune confirms that. Then moving on to Taurus, Uranus in Taurus has moved to step 26 all week. It's going to go to 25 in the month of November. That's really good. But this means that ultimately we are making commitments to what we want to build or what we want to take apart. So this is a big part of what's moving forward. What do you want to build in the new era? What do you want to manifest in the new era? So we're focusing on adjusting that. In some cases, you might take things down or to go back up. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This would be the 1 step back right now. So it's okay to change your plans. You definitely want to be flexible in your plan of building. And then in Gemini, we have Jupiter in Gemini this week. As always, we've had it since late late May. And Jupiter goes from 21 to 20. So notice that. We have Jupiter at 20. We have Chiron at 20. All right. So these 20s are volatile degrees. And I'll tell you, they're volatile because they require that we give ourselves space from the world. We don't allow the world to affect our feelings. 2 is how you feel. 0 is your outer facing energy. So ultimately, you have to protect your feelings. That means you can't let the world get to your emotional self, okay? You have to keep it from getting to you. And you don't keep it from getting to you by building up walls against others. You keep it from getting to you by focusing on you and not focusing on them. All right. So that's the planets in the global, but now I think it's time to take a look at what this does for you. Go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our tea time. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Tea Time Horoscopes, soon to be called the Soul Horoscopes in the new rendition of our Namaste Today Live. This week, I want to give you some basics for all 12 signs, so you really had some foundation to go with. We have the sun going in. We have sun wrapping up in Libra, so I want to talk about where you are wrapping up in the sun Libra transit. So where the wrap up is and what the wrap up is. You want to focus on that wrap up before moving on to the new topic, by the way. So don't get ahead of yourself. Then, of course, we have Pluto at 29, the Pluto dozer, if you remember. And that sun in Libra is going to square Pluto. And that square happens on Tuesday, the hardest day of the week. So Tuesday will be the most difficult day of the week. The sun will square Pluto. And that means you're going to have to reconcile your relationship plans with your power plans, okay? And what should change? Well, both should change. You should be willing to change your definition of power as well as your definition of what long-term relationships is. And you want to reconcile them both to be where you are here for your feelings, 9 to the 2, and in your integrity, net 11. And so in each case, you want to make sure that you get both. You should never have to get one or the other. You get both, basically. And in both cases, you feel you love yourself and you love what you're going. You love yourself and you love the world. You love yourself and you love yourself some more. So we want to come into that, you want to come into that synchronicity with yourself. Then I'll talk about the sun in Scorpio and where that's going to be for you. And this is where you're going to deepen your roots. I'll give different issues for Scorpio as we move along the transit. But this is about deepening your roots, getting to the core of who you are. Where are you getting to that core? Where are you changing those deep boundaries with yourself? And then I'll talk about the Earth in Taurus, where you're going to manifest as a result of deepening your roots. And this week or this month in the Mega Monthlies with Robbie Hunt, we talk about how really this whole, it's kind of funny because here in the Northern Hemisphere, Scorpio is, on the way to winter, right? Where in the Southern Hemisphere, it's about spring. But we're using the spring, the Earth this time, not the death of, fall and autumn, but really the spring. So we're kind of more aligned with Australia in our Southern Hemisphere as we're using the birth of a tree and the birth of a plant as our sort of metaphor for this whole month of Scorpio. Yes, things are going to be dying, but what's coming up is a new tree and tree of knowledge to replace that old tree that's been axed down. So in that context, this is the week where we deepen our roots for that tree to grow. And as always, I'll put over here what sign we're talking about, and we'll go in the order of the zodiac, starting with the Aries. Aries, you're putting the wrapping touches on your approach to marriage and partnership this week. You will commit to that path on Saturday. It's what you feel your heart open up to. Step 26, that is what you will commit to, what you feel your heart open up to, what you feel your heart liking the most. This will likely be your policy for relationships for some time, at least 9 years. So this will be a 9-year policy you're executing, basically a decade of how you're going to go. So make sure your heart is involved in that decision. Now, you will have an area where your long-term partnership plans will hit an intersection when it comes to your career, legacy, and self-direction. Pluto 29 says you cannot give up your power in your career for your marriage, and you cannot give up your marriage for your career. You must find a way for both of them to work and to come into synchronicity. All right, so that square happens around Tuesday, and what you want to do is listen to your feelings in order to find your integrity. When the sun goes into Scorpio, you're going to be deepening your roots with self-trust. Self-trust means that you have appropriate boundaries to protect who you are, your heart, your feelings, and also protect your beliefs about yourself. Protecting means you don't let part of yourself get in the way of that, and you don't let others get in the way of that, but mostly yourself. I mean, only you know when you give up on a boundary or you fail to force a boundary. By having strong boundaries with yourself, that is what builds trust in yourself. Trust comes from boundaries and the enforcement and adoration or adhering to what those boundaries are. And as you are deepening your roots with personal trust and boundary issues, you are going to now feel your self-worth grow. The Earth in Taurus is going to grow a new self-worth and new values in yourself. And that value is new soul capital that probably was not available to you prior to this moment. In other words, Aries have never had a chance to feel so good about themselves until now due to what's happening in consciousness. Now next to the Taurus. Taurus, you are now wrapping up your lifestyle and high performance. And boy, did I learn this lifestyle transit, man. I broke down a couple of times. I tripped over myself, was late to things. It was a messy lifestyle transit. It revealed to me that I have a lot of fine tuning to do. But I'm going to commit to a lifestyle, and so should you, Taurus, on Saturday. So Saturday is when you commit to a lifestyle where you bring out the highest performance in yourself. That means a balanced diet, sleep, everything else, and workload. This high-performance lifestyle will come to a test on Tuesday around life purpose, beliefs, and self-belief. So your belief structure about what your purpose is may be intersecting with your new lifestyle. In other words, you may not know how to get both. How do I get my purpose and my lifestyle in order? Well, that's for you to work on and figure out really between Saturday and Tuesday. So recognize there will be a square there. If either in the way of either, they'll come to a head. Okay, so if your purpose is in the way of good lifestyle, which has been my case, my purpose has outweighed my lifestyle, then it'll become a problem. If your lifestyle keeps your purpose from happening, then that'll be a problem. But you'll find the reconciliation probably on Wednesday or so after the sun goes into Scorpio. Now, when the sun goes into Scorpio, Taurus, it's now time to deepen your roots with your mirage to yourself. It's time to make better promises and better boundaries around how you honor your heart, how you honor your feelings, how you honor your beliefs in your mirage, your relationship to yourself. So really learning from all the wisdom and learning how to apply those new boundaries to yourself going forward. On the other hand, the Earth will be in Taurus, so Tauruses are about to do an image makeover for the next month. And in the first stages of this, you are feeling grounded in your self-treatment. So you're learning how to manifest better ways of treating yourself, getting better out of yourself, and probably ending behaviors that decay or take away from your personal power. All right, that's up with Taurus. Hey, drink. Gemini, you are now wrapping up your relationship to your personal dreams. Ideally, you have set forth a new dream path from true love, creativity, establishing something great on the earth. It's time for you to live according to your truest and personal dreams. And as you are living those personal dreams and manifesting those personal dreams, you will commit to a personal dream, what I call a golden egg project, on Saturday. So tomorrow, be ready to commit to that personal dream. Now, this will come into a head at an intersection with Pluto on Tuesday, where your personal dreams might get in the way of your life transformation. You must transform your life. And honestly, Gemini, you're almost out of time. You have to transform your life by November 19th, or you're going to be stuck, I think, because I don't think Geminis are quite good at changing themselves unless the universe helps them and feeds them along the way. So please make the change and change your life so you end up on the rainbow bus with us. But you'll realize your personal boundaries and your personal dreams will be at an intersection on Tuesday. Then you will begin to deepen your roots when it comes to your health and how you live in the present. So you are not plugged into the present. You're not plugged into your body like you should be and integrated with your body like you should be for your life to change. So you have to be more connected to your body, more connected to your health, and you're going to fortify those connections and fortify those roots for the end of the week. And then the Earth and Taurus, as you fortify those roots, you then manifest a greater faith in yourself and more fearlessness. So faith and fearlessness come as a result of being grounded in the moment and paying attention to the present. And I have to say that's probably Gemini's biggest sin, if you want to call it a sin, is you're never in the present. You're always thinking about this, thinking about that, thinking somewhere else, not thinking about the now. All right, so that's my biggest piece of advice for you in that regard. I'm going to take some water here. Two-fisted drinker. Cancers, you are putting the final touches on what you call emotional security and homeland nutrition. Cancers must build a better nest for themselves. They must have a better long-term strategy for taking care of themselves and nurturing themselves, which seems absurd. They're the homebodies, right? Well, not anymore. They've taken too much attention to the world and not enough to the nest. So it's now time to commit to an emotional foundation. That means what will make you feel grounded and feel nurtured on Saturday. That will be tested up until Wednesday, where you'll become into a full-on intersection between what you consider home and family and what you consider a long-term partnership. In other words, partnership and marriage will get in the way of homeland security. It's up to you to reconcile between the two and bring a nice unified feel between feeling grounded and also doing the right thing in relationships, all right? Now, when it comes to building your roots and fortifying your roots or deepening your roots, it's now time to deepen your roots with self-love and inner child. Cancers do not love themselves enough. They do not love themselves deeply enough. Your roots are not deep enough to keep your tree or plant from falling over. So you want to deepen and fortify self-love, how you feel, honoring your beliefs and your inner child. And while you're doing that, you're going to manifest new sprouts in society, in friendship, and where you belong. The deeper your roots go to loving yourself, the taller your flowers can grow and bloom when it comes to the world and friendship. So really coming in and drawing those boundaries to love yourself and watching what happens as a result in the world. Excellent. Next one. Leos. Leos, you are now finishing your plans for ultimately your planning, your strategy, and your attitude. So you are now coming into a place where your plans are in place, your ideas are in place, your message is in place, and your relationship to your intellect is now sound. You'll be committing your mind to certain plans on Saturday, and those plans will move forward, and that attitude will move forward until Tuesday, where you might hit a brick wall when it comes to your lifestyle. Your lifestyle might be in the way of your plans. Your plans may not be taking into consideration your lifestyle. So you have to reconcile lifestyle, work routines, your body and your health with your plans. And I have a Leo rising. This is also where I'm hitting, failing basically. My plans outweigh my lifestyle. So nice synergy between ideas and actual execution of those ideas in the moment. When the sun goes into Scorpio, you must deepen your roots, Leo, to self-nurturing and your feelings of self. You do not go far enough to satisfy your feelings. You do not go far enough to nurture yourself. And so although you've done some progress, you haven't done enough. So you want to dig deeper, to know deeper, to get to the core of how you feel about certain things and get to the things that are triggering you into problems in life. Now, as the Earth is in Taurus, you'll then begin to get clear and have sprouts come up with self-direction, career, leadership. So the more nurtured you are and the more grounded you are in your home and family, the more you can produce fruit and potential in the world. So Leos are building something that's going to last a lifetime if they do it right. All right. Virgo. Virgo, you are finishing up on your understanding of your relationship to abundance. And this is abundant returns and sustained growth. It's not just the ability to make money, it's the ability to continually make money over time. So Virgos are really going to put the master touches on what their relationship to money is and what their relationship to productivity is, what their relationship to abundance is. And it's the relationship to that. It's not that itself. It's like you may feel that you don't do well with money, and it's not that you don't do well, it's that you have the relationship of not doing well. Okay, so you want to end that relationship. Now, you're going to find that your idea for money and finance is going to hit a brick wall and come to intersect with your golden egg, personal dreams and romance. So you have to reconcile between your dreams and also your money, making money and dreams come true at the same time. You must not sacrifice dreams for money or money for dreams. It has to be a nice duality going on at the same time, mutual growth and mutual and sustained growth. Now, as the sun goes into Scorpio, it's time to deepen your roots when it comes to self-talk and thinking. The way you think, the way you talk to yourself, it's a little too shallow. You're not thinking deep enough. You're not thinking more profound when you talk to yourself. It's time to get out of that kind of valley talk and get into the deep talk when it comes to your self-talk and thinking. As you fortify your roots with your attitude and your thinking, you will then begin to see new sprouts of believing in yourself and the end of self-doubt and new ideas of things that you can explore. So ultimately, being fortified and being very careful about what you can say and not say to yourself, you then at the same time find that you believe in yourself like you never have. So I think Virgos are really cleaning up their ability to express their dreams and their ability to think properly. Brilliant. Libra. Libra, happy birthday, Libra, for the last time. You're putting the finishing touches on your character, your plot, and your action plan. So what are you going to do next? Well, hopefully you figure that out by Saturday. That's when you'll commit to what you do next. This is your character, who you want to become. What do you want to become? It's what you feel most open to. You feel the path of least resistance is the direction you ought to take. And you'll start to take those first steps here when the sun goes into Scorpio. So finishing off your character and action plan. However, this character may end up being in sort of a connection to or a conflict with your emotional security. So you may find this character doesn't fit well with your family. This character doesn't fit well with the way you were raised. This character doesn't fit well with the community you come from, all right? If that's the case, you'll have to do some reconciling and make sure you can have both, that you're both emotionally secure and supported, and you get to be this new character, both. When the sun goes into Scorpio, you're going to deepen your roots now to self-worth and values. So it's time to really get to know why you are valuable to you. And once you know why you're valuable to you, you strengthen that. So if you know you're valuable because you love how smart you are, or you love how good you are with others, embrace that love. That's your soul capital. That's what makes you special. Put boundaries around that and don't let anyone else claim that from you or take that from you. That's what the strengthening of your roots really means. Now, as you are strengthening your roots of your self-worth and value, the Earth in Taurus says you are now growing new sprouts of self-trust. You're now starting to have stronger confidence in yourself, and you're feeling more fortified in the world. So self-worth and affirming the self-worth leads to self-trust when you're a Libra. All right, moving on. Scorpio. Scorpio, you are now going to be finishing up on your faith and relationship to God and the cornerstone of your faith. So the cornerstone of your faith may be that you know you're the greatest person in the world when it comes to this, or your faith may come from the fact that you know you have good karma and God's got your back. But it's time now to commit to what is your faith? What are you committed to as your touchstone of faith? Why do you know God has your back? You've got to commit to that knowing on Saturday. Now, the attitude of faith is going to hit your mental attitude of logic. And so there's an intersection where on Tuesday, you're starting to feel like your mind comes up with a whole bunch of reasons why you shouldn't be faithful, and your heart wants to be faithful. So your heart and mind come to an intersection probably on Tuesday, and most likely what needs to change is your mind. Your mind is the inflexible part of you. Your mind is the hard part of you that doesn't want to change. So it's probably a change of mind to meet the faith, but you might have to change your faith to meet some thoughts that your mind has come to know. Now, when the sun goes into your sign, happy birthday, Scorpios. This is going to be a total reinvention of your life this year. The sun in Scorpio means that you must first fortify your roots when it comes to how you protect your heart in the moment, how you protect your feelings in the moment, how you protect your beliefs in the moment. This would be how you protect those things when you talk to others. How do you keep others' opinions from affecting your heart and your feelings? That's a big deal. I find most Scorpios don't have a good, strong boundary or shell in that regard, so this might be some difficult work for the Scorpions. As you are fortifying your self-treatment and self-behavior, how you behave yourself, you will, with the Earth in Taurus, be developing new sprouts of how you relate to yourself. So you're growing a new mirage by drawing boundaries with behavior with yourself. Excellent. Moving on. Sagittarius. Sagittariuses, you are now moving forward to fortify and complete and commit to your global image, your national campaign. So who will you be in the world? What will be your process in the world? What will you be doing in the world? You know, what the world see you as. You're going to go ahead and commit to that here by Saturday. So committing to your image in the world. All right. And that image is something where you are having giving and receiving is natural and balanced. Now, that place in the world will come into a conflict with money come Tuesday. So the way you make money will somehow be in the way of who you want to be in the world. You have to reconcile the two, because you can have it all. You can be who you want in the world and you can make money. There's a trick to it, but you can do it. All right. So make sure that those are both on the same page. When the sun goes into Scorpio, you are deepening your roots with inner faith and fearlessness. So you're going to have to really learn how to protect your heart, protect your feelings, and protect your beliefs from being attacked or from ruining your faith in yourself, or allowing fear to get to your heart, to get to your feelings, or get to your beliefs. You want to build a fortitude inside yourself that keeps you fearless and strong. Now, the Earth in Taurus means that as you become fearless and strong, you begin to manifest a new way of living in the moment. You also manifest greater health and healing. You also manifest greater presence, and that greater presence allows you to be more in command of your moment and your environment. So faith leads to a stronger presence. Focus on that faith starting Wednesday. All right, moving on to Capricorns. Capricorns! You are now finishing your job with career, legacy, and key objectives. So you're now putting yourself onto the path of your success. The sun at 26 means you're committing now to a new future, a new legacy. Many Capricorns are changing what they do now for a big reason. They're realizing the old markets aren't really relevant anymore, and there are new markets. And so this is likely you adjusting to the market, or you figuring out for the first time what you're here to do. When that happens, you will find a conflict around Tuesday between your character and your behavior and your career and your legacy. Something is going to get in the way, okay, of you being who you want to be or you doing what you want to do. And so you want to figure out, is it my character in the way? Is it my career objectives in the way? Figure it out and work out the wrinkles, all right? When the sun goes into Scorpio, you're going to deepen your roots as to where you belong in society. This is where you personally feel you belong, where your heart feels you belong, where your feelings feel you belong, where your beliefs indicate you belong. So figuring those out and fortifying them with boundaries so that nobody can talk you out of who you're meant to be in the world. As you're doing that, the Earth in Taurus is going to now have a new inner child, new self-love begin to grow up and sprout up. So your love for yourself will become greater as you define who you are and who are not in the world. All right. Moving on. Aquarius. Aquariuses, you are now putting the finishing touches on your life's purpose and treasure map. This is where you want to be in the end. This is where you want to navigate to. And you'll commit to that navigation point on Saturday. So Saturday is when you say, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, this is what is meaningful and purposeful to me. All right. So it's a big deal because Aquariuses tend to be non-committal. Libra in this area, like, they go back and forth. Making a decision is actually mastering the Libra consciousness. But you will find that your purpose might get in the way with your relationship to God, your faith, your psychic ability, or past life issues. So you have to reconcile issues of faith and purpose around Tuesday, Wednesday. When the sun goes into Scorpio, you'll then begin to fortify your roots with self-direction and self-discipline. So really making sure that you have disciplined your heart, you've disciplined your feelings, you've disciplined your beliefs to be on course with what your life purpose is. And you may find that your heart or feelings are sometimes taking you off course because they aren't necessarily fulfilled or satisfied. And so you allow yourself to go satisfy your feelings and thereby skip over what you're meant to do. All right. So Scorpio is about your self-discipline leading into your career. Now, while that's happening, the Earth will be in Taurus, which means as you fortify the direction of your life, you begin to grow new sprouts of how you feel about yourself. You start to feel much better about yourself, and your feelings of self-nurturing and your ability to self-nurture will go to a higher level because you're more focused on where you're putting that energy that you get from the home. So good times for Aquarius. They're getting very fertile now. And then lastly, but never leastly, the Pisces. Pisces, you're going to put the finishing touches on transforming your life and alchemy science. That means you're going to alchemize yourself into a new version of yourself, and you're going to be committing to that new you on Saturday. So it's okay you haven't committed just yet. You will tomorrow on Saturday. Once you commit to that new version of yourself, that transformation that has to happen, you will hit a bit of a roadblock between that and your social reputation. Somehow, who you've been in the world may get in the way with who you want to be next. And so you have to find and reconcile the differences between the two. Okay, so in some cases change the boundaries. In some cases change, what you've been trying to do as far as your presence in the world. All right. When the sun goes into Scorpio, however, Pisces, it now will be about fortifying and deepening your roots, about believing in yourself. You want to get to the core and really honor your heart, honor your feelings, honor your beliefs about yourself. What you believe about yourself must be protected. You cannot let anyone, including yourself, get in the way of that self-belief. As you fortify your self-belief and deepen those roots, you begin to grow sprouts when it comes to self-talk and nurturing. So the way you talk to yourself, the way you think of yourself, this changes to a positive based on what your beliefs are about yourself. Solid about your beliefs, you'll be solid about the communication. So don't try to communicate until you know what you believe to begin with. All right. That's all we have for our soul horoscopes this week. Don't forget they go live again on Tuesday. We cut them out and put them on our Serious Joy YouTube channel. And we're going to take a little break now. When we come back, we have Julie McFadden. We're going to talk about being facilitating death and the processes of human beings crossing on. Until then, hang in there. I'll be right back. This Zodiac weather is from Saturday, October 19th to Friday, October 25th, 2024. Looking first at the weekend forecast. Over the weekend, we wrap up our core decisions about whether or not to continue in a relationship for long term. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and valuable. The moon in Taurus makes you feel and know your worth. Step 26 means Saturn rules the day. Knowing your worth with Saturn tells us you're ready to decide and commit to what the peace deal will be or the future will become. You're also upgrading your personal boundaries, and once the moon moves into Gemini, you're ready to communicate the change. On Sunday, it's sunny and rather animated. Step 27 gives us a Mars ruled day. It's time to move forward now with what you want to do in relationships. You could say it's time to shake on it. You are receiving the conviction that this is the right thing to do. And again, a moon in Gemini makes it easier than usual to communicate the truth with one another. Now let's zip ahead and take a look at the 5-day weekday forecast in the upcoming week. In this upcoming week, we transition from wrapping up the Libra energy and diving deep into intimate Scorpio. On Monday, it's sunny and rather chatty. Step 28 indicates that Earth rules the day. This is a day where you love and protect what you have served and created. This is where you honor all of your agreements in your relationships and wait for things to gel. What you'll receive is the real value of these changes, and you're initiating the transfer of power from the we to the me, or vice versa. With the moon in Gemini, then Cancer, it starts very heady, but then gets deep in your feelings, and this may be the first time you mourn the changes of your relationships. On Tuesday, it's partly cloudy and weighing. Step 29 indicates Chiron rules the day. This is the day where you'll receive justice, and you are testing the balance potential of everything. You could say this is a real test as to whether the marriage or divorce is going to work out. And several planets indicate that there is a major change in karma. Mostly the Sun squaring Pluto, a major test of heart and personal power, and then the Sun entering Scorpio, indicating the end of relationships and the beginning of drawing lines. On Wednesday, it's cloudy and rather sensitive. Step 0 means this is a Grandmaster Pluto-ruled day. You are redefining boundaries with yourself. You could say it is a rebirth or the rising of the phoenix. What you are protecting on this day is everything, and you are feeling out how you feel as far as safety is concerned. This day will be a strange day, but a strong day as you are deepening your roots and feeling more grounded. On Thursday, it's cloudy and moody. Step 1 indicates the Sun rules the day, so this is a day of protecting self-love. The moodiness is due to the fact that you may feel you haven't protected self-love as well as you can. You are going to clarify your emotional boundaries to make you feel safe and nurtured. And with Mars sextiling Uranus, it's now time to get moving on some sort of construction or deconstruction project. The moon in Leo amplifies that connection to the heart. And then on Friday, it's cloudy and hopeful. Step 2 means the moon rules the day, and with the moon in Leo, it means your heart and feelings rule the day. And this is precisely what you must protect, are those feelings and your heart. But as you bring up those walls and shelter out the gooey, you're going to find that you are changing how you feel about your story, and perhaps this is just the beginning of something magnificent ahead.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
Roo! Wild Pack, it's Mama Bear, aka Bernadette, the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle certification class that you guys have asked me for 4 years. 4 years you've been asking. It's finally coming. It will be out this week. If we haven't met yet, I'm Mama Bear, and I always read with my own deck, the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck, 223-page book. There are 149 cards. It's a big old deck, but there were a lot of animals that wanted to be in it. And animals don't play. When they want something, they want it. And that's that. So just give up the ghost and just do what you're supposed to do, please, which is follow your heart, follow your calling, follow your, oh, wait, what are they called? Natural instincts.
Welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. We're always interested in the wide scope of light givers on the planet. In today's case, it's the final light worker you may encounter before you pass on. Julie McFadden, BSN, RN, has been a nurse for 16 years. She's an experienced ICU and now hospice palliative nurse. Julie has been passionate about normalizing death through education to the masses using social media. And now through her new book, her New York Times best-selling book, Nothing to Fear. She's been featured in Time Magazine, Newsweek, GMA, USA Today, and several other articles worldwide, so you can see why we're so blessed to have her here. On TikTok, she has over 1.6 million followers, and you can also find her on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, as Hospice Nurse Julie. Please welcome our guest tonight, a Step 10 Scorpio, hospice nurse, and online educator, Julie McFadden. Yay! Hello.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. It sounds like you are an angel.
I cannot help but laugh out loud when I hear that. I do not feel like an angel, but
really?
I do get that a lot. It's a little, it makes me feel No, I mean, I'm happy people think that, but of course, I'm just normal. If
Yeah.
anything, I'm not an angel, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So,
I'm a sober alcoholic. I had like decades of like alcohol and drug use. I mean,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think
So
that's
like,
always the path of an angel, though. That's
yeah,
like the first step
possibly.
is facing your shadow, for sure.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that you're an angel in training, an AIT, angel in training. Yeah.
I love that. AIT, I'll take it.
Okay. Well, okay. So, what got you started in this? I guess maybe were you facing your own shadow prior to this, or what got you involved in what can be a scary part of life, which is of course the end of it.
Right. So I think because I've been a nurse for 16 years, right? And my first half, so the first 8, I was an ICU nurse. So I was like
Whoa.
rigorously trying to keep people alive at all costs, right?
Hmm.
And in those 8 years, it really helped me see that keeping people alive at all costs was causing suffering and doing people a disservice. I felt like
Really?
the medical profession at large was doing the best they could and doing wonderful things. And we had this missing link of like really being able to talk about death and dying. And because of that, people were suffering. Families, patients, nurses, doctors, like we all were just like not talking about the elephant in the room of like,
Mm.
we should talk about the fact that this person's dying and how do they want to die? What should we do? So with that training, that got me really interested in hospice work. And if people are going to die, which we all are,
Mm.
I think I want to be more on the hospice palliative care side of things than the ICU side of things. And because of that training, I feel like it doesn't feel sad to me. It doesn't feel depressing to me. It doesn't feel hard to me to be a hospice nurse because I know the opposite side of that. Being an ICU nurse, at least for me, was like tenfold harder.
Hmm. So in essence, like, that 911 prevention of death is far more nervous and anxious and full of stress than just acknowledging it's going to happen and making it a peaceful journey.
Yes. Yes.
May,
Yes.
may,
Yes.
may we ask your own personal beliefs? And you can say no, but I'm just curious: are you convinced of an afterlife, for instance, in your own personal faith?
My own personal faith, yes. And I was like this before I was a hospice nurse. I'm not religious. I don't have a religion. I mean,
Hmm.
I grew up in America, like Christianity would be like the closest thing, but I
Hmm.
could kind of go on and on about why I wouldn't say I'm a Christian, I guess.
Hmm.
I just think from evidence that I have seen through being a hospice nurse, I just don't think the idea of, I hope this is okay to say, but I don't think the
Everything's okay here.
idea, yeah, the idea of like there's only one way to God or to where we truly belong. I just don't think that. So it's really hard for me to really get into any of the religions because from my experience, it just feels like we're all one, we're all going home. Like to me, where we go after we die is more like home than here ever could be.
Yes. Yeah.
So
We've learned that too. I mean, we believe that. I mean, I believe that in my own study. I've had near-death experience people on the show. They've talked about their experience. It's so compelling. I mean, things you cannot possibly. That proves really proof of heaven is one of the books with Dr. Alexander. So I'm convinced of that too. I also believe no one owns a patent on God.
I know, I
There's no
know.
trademark of God.
And also, like, if you want to believe what you want to believe, go for it. But also, like, I just can't. And I feel like I have felt the power of God. And I hate, I mean, for just lack of a better word, I don't know what else to call it. But like this feeling that I get, this love that I feel,
Yes.
makes me so certain that it doesn't have to be one way or the other.
Hmm.
It's all good. It's all love, and we're all going there.
Yes. Inevitably. It's going to happen even if you try for it not to happen. It's
Yeah,
like programmed
yeah,
in.
right,
Nothing to worry
right,
about.
exactly.
Well, how has being this in this position in life? You said you talked about you were at the brink of death and you moved now to the preparation of death. How has that changed your life and your lifestyle, making that shift in your work? Has it shifted your perspective?
Well, this is a little off topic, but it really has helped me. I mean, just shifting to a slower pace type of work has
Mm.
really helped me like sink into a really good work-life balance, learning how to
Mm.
have boundaries, learning how to understand myself, help others, but not get too involved. Like there's this whole shift that happens that's been really amazing. And just seeing death day in and day out is not actually depressing. It is like, it helps me see how fragile life is, how the present moment is so important. And I truly do feel like I contemplate my own mortality on a daily basis, and in a good way, not in a morbid way, in a way that helps me like enjoy my cup of coffee, enjoy like the sunlight on my face,
Mm.
realize that it's important, or realize that it's not anything simple that I can get up and like walk to the corner. Little things like that is like what hospice work has done for me. I realize that like it can get away from me. Don't get me wrong, but like but most of the time I realize like all these things I'm so grateful for, that for the most part it's really easy to not to take things for granted, to take these certain things for granted.
I mean, almost what you hear cancer survivors claim. With
Yeah.
surviving cancer gives them that same state of being of just really enjoying what they be in the moment and that quality of the moment.
I cannot hear you suddenly. I can almost hear you, but it's a little muffled.
Okay, yeah, we're having some issues there. Too low now. Full volume on my end. Okay, interesting. We're having some weird stuff here on my end here. We'll figure out what it is here. So I was just saying it's a lot like cancer survivors. Could you hear that? No? Turn off noise suppression.
It's a little too hard to hear. I'm
No
sorry.
problem. No problem. Hold on a second. Okay, we're playing with the software. Is that
Oh, there. No, that's good. Good.
all right? Okay.
There we go.
Adam, thanks everyone. We're trying to mess around here. We're having echo, weird stuff here at Restream. So I was saying that it's ironically, you reached a state working in hospice that people who survive cancer often claim.
Yeah, right.
Out of that quality of life. And so you're getting the best effects, Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's why this whole like social media thing that's happened to me over the past 3 years, it really does feel like it's happened to me. Like I feel like I didn't work at it. I wasn't trying to do it. There was no plan. I didn't have things prepared. I just knew I had some things to say and I wanted to say it. And TikTok happened to be where I went because my nieces showed me it one like weekend home. And it took off like immediately. And I feel like through that, it helped me see that, I already forgot where I was going with this, but through that, it just helped me see that people were kind of hungry for this information. And it's just been such a wild ride to see how this has unfolded. And like most of the things I want to say to people are about, they think death is depressing. They think talking about it is awful or hard, or no one wants to. And it's like, no. Look, it's not. People are tuning in to my channel. People are wanting to learn about it. From my experience with working with hospice patients, most of them feel relief when they are able to talk about how they're feeling, what to expect, like the actual facts of like the progression of their disease. And it helps you live better. It helps them live better. It helps their family live better. It helps you as the hospice nurse live better.
Yes. So how do you describe the arc of a hospice patient? They come in there assuming kind of afraid, or in that state. You could be going to them. They could be in an actual place.
Right.
There's different varieties of it. But in that first stage, how they start off, and do you have a place spiritually that you try to take them? I know your job actually isn't about that, but I also know from nurses they do it anyways.
You're
They feel
right.
the spiritual calling to be there for you in a certain way. The good, I say the nurses I've enjoyed. So is there an arc of transformation that you would map out in your mind or have noticed in your patterns?
I mean, for the most part, people will be different. People's
Yes,
arc
of
will be
course.
depending on their disease, depending on who they are. People die how they live too. So like, it's not like
Interesting statement. Wow.
it's not like everyone we meet is going to be willing to go the distance with us, right? And that is also a lesson I learned, and why I wanted to tell people, listen, people who don't talk about this, people who don't prepare, the people who are unwilling to kind of break open, they usually have a harder time in life because they're not dead yet. And in the death process, like the actively dying part, right? It's harder for them to let go. Now, I'm speaking generally here. This is not everyone, but that's like the general thing that I saw. So the arc, there isn't one specific arc, but there are things that I see patients do that I'm like, oh, okay, good, right? And all of it has to do with honesty and being open about how they're feeling and what they're going through, asking for help, being able to not have to have control of everything, which I mean, I get it. I'm like that.
Yeah.
Like, I want things black and white. I want to know what's happening. I want to know. So people and patients and families who are willing to learn, willing to ask for help, willing to live in the gray, um, and then even talk about things, even if it's quote unquote negative, right? It doesn't have to be like death positive. You don't have to be like excited to die or okay to die. You can be angry, you can cry, you can scream, you can say you don't want to. And all of those patients still seem to live better and die better. There is something about speaking the truth that seems to help people. I don't know if it's like an arc, but it's like a way, and there's some patients who will just not do it. And that's their choice. We can't, change that. I can always try to work on them as the weeks go by, right? But sometimes, like I said, they're going to die how they want to. And that's their choice too.
Yeah, including the time. It seems like
Right.
in my study of death, which is really running astrological charts when someone died and seeing, time of death, birth charts. So I kind of see where consciousness is astrologically at the time of crossing over. And quite often, it depends on the personality as to when that happens. But what seems to be pretty clear is it's according to when they want, really. It's not really something, I mean, the final moment. And you hear
Yeah.
stories all the time of, sister finally called in and, spoke to dad and like, lump, he's gone. Like it's literally this final, right? And the last goal is checked. Have you witnessed that yourself?
Yes. I mean, in my whole in my book, there's a whole chapter 6 that's called Deathbed Phenomena. And one of the phenomena is like choosing when you're going to die, right? And it's usually, so it can be general, like you said, like waiting for everyone to get there, waiting for everyone to leave. And a lot of people who are really like private and like prideful in a good way, not a negative way, but just someone who took a lot of pride in how they looked and like they were just a private person. A lot of times they'll want to die alone.
Yes.
And then there's actually people who can like pick dates. They'll say like after my daughter's wedding, after this graduation, after Christmas. I don't want to die on Christmas. I had a lady literally choose when she was going to die. Just tell everybody I'm dying tonight. And everyone didn't believe her because she wasn't really, she was
Looking that
dying,
bad.
but she wasn't close to dying that night. And
Right.
she did.
Wow.
She was just like, no, I'm tired. I'm going home. I can tell.
Huh.
And then she did.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
believe that. I believe that is our choice ultimately. I also believe that we chose before we came. In a
Yeah.
way that there's a certain plan that's going according to a certain plan, an exit point.
Yeah.
From complexities of it. Do you believe, so a lot of things that like, I can only think of the one person I know who's passed away that was really close to me, which is my grandmother. And she was saying that, I'm getting emotional about it, but she was saying that she saw grandpa right before she was dying. Like we pretty much, like grandpa was waving the tree and all kinds of silly stuff. And she was like completely having some hallucinations, what appeared to be, but I kind of felt like the dimensions were crashing there and grandpa was fucking with her,
Yeah.
which he does, that's him. So, I
Yeah.
mean, what have you witnessed in that kind of sense? Have you seen contact or seen evidence of contact that is undeniable to you?
Yes. I mean, countless times. And I personally always preface it with like, I don't know what it is or what it means, but I always try to educate about it because it's real and it happens and we don't know why it happens. So like as a nurse, as a medical professional, I can say, I know what ICU psychosis is. I know what delirium looks like. I know what it means when someone has taken too many medications or their oxygen's too low. I know what that looks like. Visioning does not look like that. Visioning does not look like that. So visioning is something very particular to the end of life. And it happens in countless patients, countless patients. So, and it's when they see dead relatives, dead loved ones, old pets that have died. I mean, you name it. I've seen it. It's wild.
Have you had any occurrences of they die and came back for some reason? I mean, and so you had a little bit of recollection because you're not really in that ICU trying to save and bring him back. At that point, you're allowing.
Exactly. I get that question a lot, and no, I have never had. So I have had one, and I don't know if you want me to tell a story or not, because
Sure,
it
tell us
is a
about it.
longer story. But I have had someone not die, but almost die, and then
Okay.
to me, I feel like I witnessed a miracle because the way they came back was so profound. It was a true miracle. Like if we want to talk medical miracle, I saw a miracle. This
Wow.
woman was actively dying. fully unconscious. Oxygen was not getting to her brain. She was cyanotic, which means like blue. Like as a nurse, you can look at someone and know like, oh, they're gone. Like they might
Right.
be breathing-ish, but like they're not getting any oxygen to their brain. Like she is not mentating. Like this woman is gone. And
Yeah.
I thought and prepared the family that she would die in the next few hours. Like that's how close I thought she was. And in those times, I kind of feel like the body is here, but the consciousness is likely not here. Like she's
Right.
already dead, kind of, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I prepared the family. I let them know like she's gonna be dying soon. Call us when she dies. Like she's very comfortable. Blah blah blah. Before I left the house, I took one last look at her just to make sure she was okay and still breathing. And maybe because I was kind of thinking she might die like while I was there. She was still breathing, totally unconscious, but she looked comfortable. So I left. In the morning, I didn't see an email because we always write emails saying like a death visit we did, or, you know, when someone has died. No email about her death. So I called the office like, hey, who went out to see so-and-so? Like, I'm sure she died last night. And they were like, no one called. We didn't get any death calls. And I was like, what? And I'm still like science nurse Julie. Okay. So in the moment. So I'm like, oh my God, they called the hospital. They went to the ER. Like, who knows what happened? And I call the family and they're all laughing when they pick up the phone. And they're like, I'm like, what's going on? How'd the night go? And they were like, oh my gosh, you know, mom slept through the night. And then she woke up and said she was hungry. So now she's in the kitchen eating pancakes.
Whoa.
I
Wow.
know. Thank you.
You.
And I
Wow.
was like, what? I seriously got chilled right now just thinking about it. And I was like, what? I'm going to come over and see you guys because I couldn't believe my eyes. Sure enough, there she is, talking, laughing, eating pancakes.
Wow.
And then I thought, oh, maybe this is the rally where people get the burst of energy right before so like maybe this is her one last day. Like this is a crazy rally that I'm witnessing. Nope. She lived for like another 3 months.
Wow.
I know. And well, too. And well, she did die peacefully on hospice, but 3 months. 3 months. And the thing that I want to say about this is I told that story for years because I felt like I had witnessed a miracle and I thought it was amazing. But the part of the story that I only started telling recently is that the night when I went in to go, right before I left, I went to and go see her just to check on her. I got this brief boom image of, I think, her angel.
Huh. Really?
Yeah. It's a one and only time. I don't make a habit of seeing angels, but I do feel like I saw one. I feel like it was this image that was placed in my mind. It was huge, almost like a car, like huge.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like light and airy, like little baby cherub. It felt like not even love. It felt like power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it kind of gave me a message like, this is mine, like her. And of course, I just put it out of my mind and didn't really think anything of it and really just made myself believe that didn't happen. And then the next morning, though, when I saw her sitting there eating pancakes, I thought, wow.
Interesting. You know, I believe that you are working with the angels. That's the angelic realm that is responsible for the transfer in and out of, you know, this life. There's all kinds of levels of angels, but that sounds a lot like Metatron. Like, as far as those who know the differences of angels,
No,
that
I
sounds
don't.
like Metatron. Yeah,
What's
he acts kind of
Metatron?
badass whenever he shows up. But he's a human that turned into an angel, so he's got some human kind of traits to him. It's interesting. But he's very commanding like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what this felt like. It felt very much like, it wasn't scary, but it wasn't like lovey. It was
Right.
just like, no, I got this.
It was absolute. Like,
Yes,
this
absolutely.
is the way.
Yes,
That's
this is the
Metatron.
way. This is mine. This is it. Like,
This is how it's going to be. There's no negotiation here. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Well, I would imagine that, now I'll just slip in here. It's like, from those of us who live in this side of the world, as soon as your heart requests to work more closely with them, you will. That might have been an introduction, like an
Okay.
offering.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll talk about backstage what that means. But I also feel like, I almost feel like reading into her energy, that somewhere in the processing, she actually thought about pancakes. I think pancakes saved her life, honestly. It's like a home like, pancakes. And like, suddenly, you know,
So she actually
woke up.
woke up and didn't just say she was hungry. She said she was hungry for pancakes.
Yeah.
That's why they were having them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if anything happened with her and her family in that 3 months that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Like, My guess would be that there's some sort of wish fulfilled, and the
Yeah.
angel intervened.
Yeah. And to be just completely transparent, when you said like, how do you lead your patients spiritually, or you said something like that earlier, like this is a great example of like, I didn't tell the family, oh, I think I
Ooh,
saw an angel in your room. Like I don't do any of that. I keep
right.
it very like, if we talked about it a little more, like I didn't go to her and say like, did you experience anything? You're a miracle. I did say she was a miracle, but I didn't, I sort of leave it to them to say stuff to me, and either they do or they don't, and, in particular, this family, I don't remember them fully. I feel like I'd remember if they were talking to me about it. I just know that she lived for 3 months and it was really beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I mean, ultimately, the contract's between you and the patient. So
Yeah.
you and
Yeah.
the client. So it's whatever they need and whatnot. And I don't know. For me, I did not mean to send the signal that all nurses in your position, have a script or something. But I know just from being human, whether you're a beautician or a bartender, you sort of have this policy of care.
Yep.
And I was curious about the policy of care that you put into, and what you try, what position you try to get the client into for them to be comfortable and whatnot. That was my curiosity.
Right. Yeah. And really and a lot of times that does happen. Right. And it's just that I personally just allow it. Like I give them the chance. I show them that I'm safe. And and a lot of times when I start talking about specifics about their death and dying journey through actual what they might experience because of their disease, that's what opens the door into other things like their emotional wellness, their spiritual wellness. So it just depends. But I
Hmm.
love it when we do go there.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding for both parties.
Yeah.
You advise people to talk to their loved ones about your wishes and when they die. What are the important topics to ask our loved ones about that?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I mean, on the practical level, we all need to start talking about what we want and what we don't want. And that will change as we get older, maybe, right? But we still need to talk about it here and now, no matter what age you are, no matter if you're the healthiest or not. Like, talk about specific circumstances. If I was in a car accident and I am brain dead and they're saying my life is going to be X, Y, and Z, like, do X, Y, and Z. Don't keep me on machines, or keep me on machines. Do you want a feeding tube? Do you not want a feeding tube? I mean, I only know these questions because I work in healthcare, but it doesn't come with a handbook. People don't really educate you about how to make choices. A lot of times they'll say like, if we don't put a feeding tube in, they'll die.
Ugh,
And then everyone's like, okay, well then put
but
a
she wants
feeding
to die,
tube
but
in.
yeah.
Yeah. But they don't understand like what that means. And if they didn't put a feeding tube in, like we don't always have the time to fully explain it. So to really try to understand those things so your choices. So talk about what you'd want, different circumstances. It may change over time, but at least have conversations with your loved ones so they know. So if something, God forbid, right? But if something does happen, they can remember these conversations that you had around the dinner table. So that's the first thing. You can get it legalized, you can make it legal, you can do advanced directives, but generally speaking, just start talking about it. Just start talking about it. And then the second thing I think that's really important is to get your finances and in order. And people always think they don't have, like, they think only rich people have to do that. Only people with money have to get like an estate planner. That is not true. You need to get things in order. If you own a house, if you don't own it outright, like, do you have beneficiary? There's all these really, to me, really annoying things. Like, I would never want to have to do this, but we all do, and it's all important. So take the time, get with an estate planner, even if you don't think you have an estate to plan, and get those things in order. It'll help your family so
Yes.
much
Yeah.
if that stuff's in order already.
Oh yeah. My
Yeah.
clients, like they help, they usually are after a parent dies, up to a year and a half dealing with
Yes.
the estate. And it
Yes.
becomes like a full-time job, and
It does.
that's assuming there's no siblings who are going after it, and like
Yep.
people turn. It's just
How do you
so
get into bank accounts? You don't have certain things. So
right.
I always say passwords to computers, passwords to phones, passwords to bank accounts. Put people's names on who is able to, so always give someone financial permission to be in charge of your finances if you die. So there's different things you can do to put in place, so that you don't have to. It's still a lot of work once your loved one dies, but it's less, and it's kind of all in order already.
Yeah, the only thing about that for me is like I kind of feel like I'm telling God I'm ready when I'm not. So it's like, like that's my only concern about that. I'll have to think about it as they start to age. But I hear you.
A
I can
lot
see
of
this.
people say that.
I know it's almost like you're saying yes to it. And you're like, I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying
I
I want it.
know.
But I don't want it almost helps you to go let go probably of life when you know everything's handled.
Right. I mean, I just think, yeah, just because we talk about it doesn't mean it's going to happen. That's what I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
think.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've seen enough stories of where it went wrong, where some of my clients are so caught up in just this ugliness. When mom or dad is passing, they start getting greedy, taking over stuff. It starts to be this chess game. And then after, too, squatting on stuff. Just even siblings that have been nice the whole life just go suddenly different at that point. So, yeah, have a plan. Listen to Julie, y'all.
Have a plan, and talk to each other. Can I say one thing about that? Because I think there's
Yeah.
always a lot of misunderstandings. When one child is in the city, in the home, taking care of their mom and dad, right? Then there's others, and that's okay. They want to be doing that. And there's others who are outside of the city or not living in the same state, and they just come in periodically. Then they come in and start trying to be like, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They're not there. So they have this weird grief, weird guilt that they're not there for mom and dad.
Right.
Now their one sibling is making all the decisions and they don't like what they're doing. And then this one person who is making all the decisions then starts being in charge of the house. And then they think you're being greedy. You just want the house. And I think it's all, and that could be, there are people that are like that. But generally speaking, I think it's just a lot of misplaced grief. And
good insight.
so they're all just getting at each other. So it's important to try to talk about that stuff now. Like get that stuff planned now. Think about that stuff now. Who's going to take care of mom and dad if they get sick? Like who wants the house? Are we going to sell the house? We're going to split it 3 ways. I know it. People always say, we'll do that later. But I'm telling you, it's best to do it when you can now. Yeah. Now
It's unfortunate that our society doesn't have a very healthy culture around death.
I know.
Because you hear about different cultures, even Mexico, where they have certain festivals around death and celebration of death, and it's just handled so much more organically and clean. And it's like, if that were the case here, I mean, imagine what's possible. So much resistance of death. Yeah.
I know. I really hope we change that. Of course, I'm kind of like in it. I'm in this little world of people trying to change it, so it feels like it's changing. I hope that's true. I do think we really need to start changing the way we look at death and dying.
I feel like we're doing a part here with Serious Joy. I mean, the sense of just understanding the truth of your spirituality, that there's life after this life, like erasing those Christian Judaic hangover techniques that were, used to scare us to death. We've been always scared to death about the possibility of death, and think about how that has held over us. I mean, every movie is about you could die, the hero could die. Everything's like you could die. And it's like, well, we all do. Why are we? So we're hanging over as a manipulation tactic.
Yeah.
Like all of culture, right? Like, and we're using it to motivate people. We're using fear of death to, get us into systems we wouldn't be in otherwise. Even the fear of death around COVID. I mean, that was a fear of death that was really heightened. Like, like I felt like there was a huge fear of death wave that came on top of the risk that I've never seen come from the establishment before.
People often ask me if that's why. They're like, do you think that's why your channel blew up because of COVID?
Yeah, I think so.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Ours did. You know what I mean? Like, well, once people started, once we got our nose out of the grind and we started looking at the quality of life, you sit at home for a long, couple of minutes.
Yeah.
That distraction of work or whatever really allows you to look at what you haven't been looking at. So I think that alone was the expansion, right? But I also feel intuitively that, social media is the new television. I think, you were meant to get out there where, you can't hold back what the humans need, so understanding what you do is huge, I think. In fact, what about terminal illnesses? I mean, what are the best ways to help someone who, I have friends who are facing this dementia, all sorts of things, and they're having a hard time being there for their parents. A lot of times there's anger because their parents weren't there for them. We're talking about baby boomers who are passing by. The baby boomers did not really end up being good children, so to speak. Their parents are pissed at them, and a lot of times they wanted their kids to take care of them. It's just a model. Something about the baby boomers got a silver spoon, right? And so I see a lot of like anger, and and then feeling bad for being angry, and a lot of emotion
Yeah.
coming up for the children of those with the terminal disease. What do you recommend? How you can help? How we, the surviving, can help them.
Yes. I mean, it's complicated and it's uncomfortable and it's hard. So I think a
Okay.
lot of times people who are taking care of people who are sick, right? They think, why does this feel so hard? I must be doing something wrong. Why do
Hmm.
I get angry at them? Why am I so frustrated? What am I so, and then they feel guilt and shame for feeling all these things. And really, I liken it to like a mother or just a family who has like two kids under two. Like one of my best friends has two kids under two. And she was like, I had kids like later in life, like we're well established. Like, why does this, like, I thought I did everything right. Why does this still feel so hard?
Mm.
And I'm like, I think it just is. I think that
Mhm.
everyone just a hard thing. And that's what I think it is like caring for someone with dementia, someone with terminal cancer, your parents who are aging. I think it's just hard. And then and which I'll give some advice in a second, but I just want to make sure everyone understands like it's normal and it's hard
Mhm.
and you're not wrong. You're not doing something wrong. We live in a society that's like, we can't help you. There's literally nothing to help you as far as like Medicare. Medicare doesn't provide like daily living activity stuff. There's not
I
like a
know.
thing. Yeah, there's not a thing. It's like you're just supposed to do it. Like on hospice, we do a lot of work, but the families do most of the work. It's like
Yeah.
80-20, like
Yeah.
80s or 20s us, 80s them. We just expect the
Yeah.
family to be able to do stuff. So it's just a lot. And we haven't built a society to help aging people and their families. We have not. So we're running into a problem because of that. So it's hard. So the things you can do are, I really feel like it's like an all hands on deck kind of thing
Mm.
where we need to start living more in community, which I know I'm like everyone says this, but really we have such an individualistic society and it's like it can't be done. Like you need to ask for help, all hands on deck. If your neighbors say, how can I help you? You tell them, can you take out the garbage? Whatever, like you need to get people to start helping you. If you have the money, if there's money somewhere, use money to give yourself a break and hire caregivers. If you cannot take care of your parents and you physically cannot do it, it is okay for them to go in a skilled nursing facility. I know, or like there's ask social workers how to help. Like a lot of times people don't want to leave their home, but like physically they have to, or they don't want to use the money they have to get paid caregivers because they're hanging. And it's like, no, the time is now. Do all the things. Do all the things to help yourself because it's now. I think they think it's going to get better later, or maybe if I do X, Y, and Z, it'll help. No, I think it's like do all the things you think you shouldn't do. Like I see a lot of elderly people not want to spend their money.
I know.
Not, and
They
not
want to go
everyone
with you.
elderly has money, but but I see a lot, but they're suffering a lot, but they do not want to spend their money on hiring someone to be there. And it's like,
Oh,
oof, you have to. You
not
have
me.
to.
Sorry, son. I'm blowing every penny if I have to.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like, don't be afraid. You have to start asking for help. You have to start asking
Yeah, that's a
anyone.
tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And we need to change all of our culture and everything. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we're at the dawn of that, but you know, your wisdom has only become greater as time goes on, Julie, for sure.
Thank you.
What
Yeah.
about people who are feeling guilty that they're relieved their parents go? Because that's when I get a lot from my clients where they're struggling the whole time. They're complaining, not complaining in a bad way, but that's the whole reading's about. And then finally, the parent does go, they come back, and now they feel guilty for being relieved.
Yeah.
So
That's
now
the
it's like
number
an
one. That's
after.
the number one thing I hear.
Ah,
So they're normal. It's
okay.
like
Okay.
they're so normal. That's the first thing I hear from almost all of my families. But
Gotcha.
first off, they whisper it. They don't even want to admit it, but they're like, I feel awful. I feel like at the first second I felt relief, and then the second it was like guilt and shame for feeling relief,
Hmm.
and then they hide it and don't want anyone to know, which makes it worse and worse and worse. And really, it's like the most normal feeling. And I think
Mm.
it's because, again, it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really complicated. It's usually this long, drawn out process ish, right? That feels like you're so uncomfortable emotionally. Like you're so uncomfortable. You're so uncomfortable. You're watching your loved one die. You're watching your loved one die. That's so hard. That's so hard. That's so hard. It's also probably a lot of work. And then they finally go. And there is a sense of relief because it's all hard. It's hard on them. It's hard on the person dying. It just feels hard.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you're relieved to have that hardship gone for sure.
yeah.
And there was a amount of just stress and anxiety that was causing. So just that alone is good.
Yeah.
Although spiritually, I can't even speak from a whole community, but I've always felt and been taught through my family that there's a cord between your parents and your mom, particularly your mom in general. You have a cord there. Also your father too, but a different cord. And so there's this energetic cord, and when the parent passes, the child feels the loss of that energy flow from the parent. And so there is a depression where the spiritual energy drops significantly with the loss of a parent, the one who is holding the cord of life for you. And you finally feel yourself lost, and your energy level is significantly lower. And so you have to sort of like change your energy to go within instead of seeking out kind of thing. There's a whole process of it spiritually. Now, do you notice, you probably don't stick around too long after they pass, but do you notice like any type of, or hear reporting of any type of energy drop when their parents go?
So personally, I feel like I always notice an energy shift. I guess I would describe it when they take their last breath.
Ooh, okay.
Right after they take their last breath, it's like it feels. And that's why I always try to help people not feel so afraid during the actively dying phase of life, which is the last phase, because it's easy to feel afraid then because they look so different and they're breathing funny and it's just, and they makes them uncomfortable. But I always try to get them to not feel as afraid so they can just be present. Because when I'm present and I don't have real grief because it's not my loved one, I can feel like the sacredness of it. And I can feel how it almost feels like, like time expands and then
Wow. I feel like
the stillness, So it's like a really big, beautiful, I think, shift.
Yeah.
That's the only time I notice it. Is like right when they take their last breath. And then the stillness afterwards.
Yeah, interesting. Well, how about what are the more difficult parts of doing your job? I mean, you seem like you're pretty empathic. Do you pick up on the pain? I mean, what is it that's hard for you? What is it that's actually hard for you? Because you seem pretty slick with it.
Yeah, I mean, I really do enjoy it. Really, like it's not actually like So there's two things. So there's things that are hard because I'm like neurotic and anxious sometimes, right? And that's like time management and like change of schedules and things like that. That can make it difficult for me because I don't like feeling rushed and I want to take my time and things like that. So that's one. But the only time the emotions bother me, like when, like I never feel like it's too sad, except when there is a patient who has uncontrolled symptoms and we can't seem to get them managed. So we will eventually, but like, here's the person, uncontrolled symptoms. We will eventually get them managed, but there's time in between. And that time I usually am there, or the nurse is there kind of like trying to do different things to get it managed. And that's when it's like, those are the days I feel like I could crawl in bed and die. It just feels like too much. It's just so hard to literally to watch someone suffer, and we will get it, but it just takes time. You have to try this medication, get that medication, order this thing, order this machine, get it delivered to the house, start there's just things that take a couple hours, right? Totally. And in the meantime, this person is screaming and crying, and I've had people beg me to kill them.
Whoa.
Yeah, just like, because they're
in so much pain, they're suffering.
So much pain, begging to God, it's like, shit. And I will say that rarely happens.
Okay.
Rarely. I'd say every 6 months.
Huh. Okay.
So like one in every 6 months. Most of the time it's not like that, but so that's when it's really hard. Those are the days I'm like, I can't go to work tomorrow. And I usually don't.
Really? You need to take a little time.
Work, I'm like, sorry, I can't. And that's when I can tell my energy has been drained. I'll lay in bed all day long the next day. It feels like I have to. It feels like I can't move. I just lay in bed. I'll watch The Office. I'll watch something funny. I'll eat like Big Macs. Like it's like this thing that makes me like kind of like just makes me I kind of hibernate for a little bit.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, only once every 6 months is not bad considering what you're
Yeah.
processing all the time.
Yeah.
Do patients seem to have an understanding of how much time they have left? Do they know? I mean, you brought up times when patients do know, like the date and, surprised you. But in general, do they have a sense? Do you notice they have a sense and a timing?
Yes, they do. And many times families don't think they do. So the reason why I know this is because a lot of families will say, we're not going to tell them they're coming on to hospice. Like, don't let them know, which is a whole nother, I could talk about that forever. But I always start out with like, I'm not going to get in a fight with the family. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, we'll see how this goes, but like, if they're alert and oriented, like I can't not tell them who I am, and they're like, okay, well, we'll figure it out. So when I know that, I always walk in and I'll just ask the patient, how do you think you're doing? What do you think's happening to you? And like 10 out of 10 times, they're like, I'm dying. They already
Wow.
know. They already know, right? And so then the family says, I'm dying. And then I say, I think I think you're at your end. Like everyone has an end of life journey, and I think you're on yours. And they'll be like, yeah, I can feel it. I can tell. So it's like the family ends up not being annoyed because the patient kind of already knows, but people think they don't know. They know they're in their body. Their body's dying and they're in it. They can feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
You
knowing.
know?
And so you talk about that. There's a lot of like games that are played between the living and the ones passing on. You brought up one of them right there. They're going to lie to your mom that's a hospice nurse. Come on,
I
you know, your
know.
dad. That seems to be really. But what are some of the examples of? You said you can go on for hours. We'll just we'll talk. We'll give you 5 minutes. What really annoys you about that particular relationship? What would you change if you could? Because who's in charge? Is it the one passing on, or is it the family?
Right. Well, the only time I do think it's where I'll go along with it is if they have a cognitive issue where they're going to, like dementia, where they're going to keep forgetting. Because I do know that is really hard to continue to keep explaining to somebody, like, you're on hospice, you're dying, you're on hospice, you're dying. It is really hard to do that. I
Wow.
still think if families are willing and ready, we can, but it is hard when the person's not going to remember anyway.
Mm.
And so even depending on the person's personality, if they're, so that's the only time I'll kind of work with the family. But other than that, I mean, it's up to the patient. If the patient is alert and oriented, they are the boss. And it's about getting the family in to understanding that. And many times, most times, families are understanding about that. I usually, if I run into a family where they're not, or there's a lot of fighting, I usually try to get them together. We also have beautiful social workers who can help, chaplains. But if I'm there, right, and it's happening around me, I try to get everyone to sit down. Let's take a deep breath. Like then I always say, I feel like the main goal everyone's here for is to make sure your loved one doesn't suffer.
Mm.
And everyone's always like, yes, that is the
You
goal.
rally behind that, yeah.
Yeah, we're all behind it. And then I can kind of start going, well, what does that mean? And then, well, what do you want to the patient? And the patient will clearly say what they want. And then I'll say, and you guys want what they want, right? And it's
Right.
usually a time to just get everyone talking. But, like I said, it's never perfect. And like family dynamics don't get better just because someone's dying.
No, they get worse.
They get worse. Yeah, they get worse. So,
They do, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
complicated. It takes time. And most of the time we can intervene and help over time. And sometimes we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do the best you can.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is disagreeing on her cognitive ability or his cognitive ability.
Right.
There's a lot of
Yes.
disagreement about that among the siblings, And depending on the history with the person, that's their way of dismissing the damage that they got, so it's like complicated.
It is so
If this
complicated.
person understood, we're in their right mind, they wouldn't have done this. Hold on, that's not even applicable to the moment. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
That's why it's important to get this stuff figured out before there's cognitive issues. Like
that's
here and
true.
now, mom wrote down she doesn't want X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Or mom wrote down she does.
Right.
When that stuff is done, we don't have to have, we could still have these conversations, but it's here in writing. So it doesn't matter what you want or say.
Either obeying it or not. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what about this is happening in Canada? It kind of terrifies me. Is assisted suicide
Yeah.
for people who are suffering. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is that becoming popular here in the United States? I mean,
who knows what will happen? But in 11 different states in the U.S. now, so there is some states that are in medical aid in dying or MAID. It's a little different than in Canada. So ours is like the death with dignity law. And ours is where people who are terminal, they have to meet through all these different criteria. It's like a whole process, and not every doctor wants to do it because it isn't federally known. It's only statewide, so it's hard to find doctors sometimes, but there's a bunch of different things you go through, and you can eventually get medication. And it's a powder that you mix with liquid. You can drink the liquid in it, and you can end your own life. So 11 different states in the US, it is available now here.
Wow.
Yeah, I work in California. It's available. I've seen several patients do this.
Wow.
So hospice will not pay for it because hospice is governed by Medicare, which is federal, right? So you'd have to get this medication before you came on to hospice. But so yeah, we have 11 states here in the US that make it legal. Canada's a little different because Canada, first off, I think physicians can actually administer the medication. I think their idea of like what terminal is like, I don't think you even have to be terminal. So it's definitely a little more lenient over there.
Right. I mean, I'm hearing case examples. I don't know if they're true. Has the time to research them for yourself, so much internet lore, but I'm hearing case examples of people who just feel chronically depressed. That's the reason. Or trapped in their body as a gender. That's so things that one would think can overcome with the right attention and care, but choosing not to.
Yeah.
Interesting. And from your perspective, have you been up against that before yourself? Have you assisted in that per se?
I have.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're not technically allowed to assist. Like,
right.
I know. Anything, right?
I mean, just like provide care and.
I have been there. Yes, I have been there. So to me, I am okay and for body autonomy. At the end of it, specifically if you're terminally ill, like I think if people are terminally ill, they can they are allowed to die how they want. That's what I think. As long as it's not hurting someone else or themselves, I don't think they should go, but so I'm okay with it. It's still heavy though. Those are days where it still feels heavy because it's just a strange thing to see someone who's not vibrant. They're terminally ill and you can tell. But in order to be able to take this medicine, you have to be able to talk and walk and oriented and be able to drink it yourself. And so they are usually walking and talking and very alert and oriented. And they do die before their time, right? They could have lived another however long, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So it's a little heavy to see someone like literally say bye and then drink a drink and die minutes later. I do feel honored that I can be there to like make everyone feel safe, but it can feel heavy. I will say I had one guy who was literally like 105 years old. He was 105. His 2 children were both in their 80s. They were elderly. He was very elderly. Up walking around, who knows how long he was going to live. His wife had died years ago. He had missed her. He was just over it. He was done. He was just like, he even told me, he's like, I retired at 60.
Wow.
So I would travel for 20 years. Then I lived another, he's like, I traveled till I was 80. Now I'm 100, he's like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? So to watch him take it, because he did eventually get something terminal and then get the medication, was kind of crazy because I've never seen someone so excited. His kids were like sad-ish, but they were like 85 and they were kind of like, whatever you want, Dad. You know what I mean? He took it, boom, like was happy. He was happy the day he was going. And he died very quickly, much quicker than I've seen anyone die with taking the minute. So it's just wild. Him, I feel like it didn't make me feel heavy. It was more like, wow, okay. Because he was just ready. And he looked at his wedding book before he died. So he just looked at his wedding book. I know.
What a sweet man.
Yeah. And then just drank the drink and was like, I'm ready. Let's do this.
You see his honey again.
I know. Yeah.
Did he have beliefs that, the other side was better?
I think the other side is better. Yeah.
But he believed that too. I mean,
he believed that. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He fully believed that like he was going to die and see his wife.
I can understand that. Yeah. 100%. Now, knowing what you know about death and everything with terminal illness, like if you were to come down with something like that, do you think that you would have this amazing approach that would stick? Or do you think that there's like inevitably there's a psychological thing someone gets sucked into? when they go through the process of death and dying?
I think everyone's different. Just knowing my personality, I think I would have a very human experience. So I think I would have a lot of anxiety and anger and fear. Like I would have like up and down emotions probably the first few months. But I do feel like I've always been someone who just feels connected to something greater. And I guess I won't know until it happens, if it does happen. But I do think I'll have periods of like, oh shit, I'll do periods of fear, periods of I don't want this to happen, periods of I'm angry, and a lot of like spiritual experiences, knowing that I finally get to go to this place that I've missed.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm curious about that. I mean, what do you personally think happens when a person dies?
I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I guess it's always like a feeling to me. I always say I've always felt homesick for a place that I've like forgotten.
Mm,
But like there's like a homesickness feeling.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, and I so I feel like when I go home it's going to be like that. Like it's going to be like, oh, like there it is. This is the place that I've always known, that I've always somewhat remembered. And I see it sometimes in when babies are born, like in newborns or like babies who are just born a month or two old. When I look at them, I feel that feeling of like you were just there, and the feeling of like, oh, I missed that. I want that. I know this. And I
Hmm.
feel it when I watch someone die, which is why I think we go to this
Hmm.
place. So it's very general. It's very general. I don't really know. I don't know if it's a place, if it's just a feeling, if it, I don't really know. But I think all I know is I don't feel afraid of it. And I think I'm going to feel more like myself and more like home. Here feels more jarring to me than anything.
Yeah. I've had some moments of psychic connection to the realm, and I know that the weightlessness and the worry gone is one of the
Mhm.
big feelings. That this life has such much of a heavy, just so heavy, and suddenly there's no care in the world. I know that that's part of the feeling that we feel. That suddenly
Yeah.
just feel so much lighter in life, and that nothing matters. Not that that's astral
Yes.
projection, or but I felt that, and you do want that where nothing's wrong, everything's perfect, right?
That I have felt that here. So yes, I've had moments where it's like, whew, and I just all is well, nothing matters. This is the only thing that matters, which is like this moment, whatever that is. And I feel like that's what it will feel like times a bunch all the time.
You mentioned a chapter on bedside phenomenon.
Yeah.
Um, would you give another two examples of what you've witnessed that doesn't give away the whole book?
Yeah. So I had an experience. Well, do you want an experience or do you want more bed? So I
I
have
don't
an
know.
experience of a shared death experience.
Okay,
Where I
yeah. I
feel
mean,
like
experience
someone
sounds
choked me
great.
when I was about to die.
Sure.
Which I didn't know it was called that. I had no idea what happened to me, but then I learned
Oh,
later. Yeah. So one of my patients years and years ago, one of my first hospice patients, um, we all became very close to him because he was like younger. He didn't have a bunch of family when he came on to service. He had a lot of like mental health issues and hoarding issues. So when we got to his house, it was a little bit like, whoa, we need to help this guy.
mhm.
And all of us did on the hospice team. We all helped. And in one weekend, he had his house. He for some reason he was able to like let us clean out his house. So now he has this like unhoarded house.
Mm,
He has this team of people who are visiting him every week. And it's like he really perked up. It's like even though he had this terminal illness, he was young enough that he was going to live probably for quite some time in our eyes in hospice. So we all got really close to him, and including me, where him and I would like my visits because he didn't have tons of symptoms were like of me and him talking about like what he thought about death and if he was scared and what his life was like and what he thinks it's going to be like. And he lived this life of like a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety, a lot of like had a small little world because he was so constricted and just anxious.
mhm.
And anyway, when he was getting closer to death, we had a continuous care nurse in his home, which means a nurse that's there 24/7. And I would just go in every day to check on both of them. And the last day I went there, I could tell he would die that day. He was fully unconscious, not changes in breathing, like not awake. I could tell, like for sure, this guy, my favorite patient is dying today. And I
Hmm.
was okay with it. Like we had our, we had this long thing. He was very peaceful. So I said to the continuous care nurse, can you text me when he dies? And she was like, of course. And I'm like, great. And I said my goodbyes. I like sat by his bed, closed my eyes, said my goodbyes to him, and I left the house on to the next patient. But before I left, I sat in my car and looked at his apartment again. And I just started talking to him in my head because I just loved him so much. And I was like, I just love you and I wish you the best. And like, I hope you have the most peaceful journey ever. I'm like saying all these things. And then suddenly I could hear his voice.
Whoa.
In my head, I could hear his voice. And I could feel how he was feeling. It was like he was like soaring and like how I'm like smiling. Like now it was like that. It was like a huge smile. It was like he was soaring. And he literally goes, oh my gosh, Julie. Oh my gosh. Like that. Oh my gosh. If I only would have known. I've got chills right now. If I only would have known. If I only would have known. And he just kept saying that. But the feeling was, if I only would have known how good this was.
Wow.
And he was like, I wouldn't have been so afraid. I wouldn't have been so afraid. And the feeling of freedom and joy and peace and like not just happiness, but like pure joy was so overwhelming. I started like sobbing, weeping in my car. And knowing this man and knowing how much he suffered mentally in this world and to feel the freedom he was feeling and how excited he was and how I just kept going, oh my gosh, Julie. Oh my gosh, Julie. I can't believe this. If I only would have known. If I only would have known. He didn't actually say much except for that. It was like he was giving me his feelings and he was just friggin' excited and so good. So I'm sobbing in my car. He's saying how amazing everything is. And then all of a sudden it was done. And I was kind of like sunk back into my car. Like, what the hell? Like, what was that? Because that's never happened to me. And I'm like drying my tears. And all of a sudden my phone beeps. And I look at the phone and it says, so-and-so just died. And I thought, I know. Because I think he just like showed me the whole like crossing over part of it. Which I didn't say to her. I didn't say to anybody for years. I didn't tell anyone. I just sort of wiped my tears and said thank you. And then like went on to the next patient. And again, I always do this thing where I try to forget about it, where I try to act like it didn't happen or it must not be real. And then everyone kept asking me, like in social media, like, why don't you fear death? Why are you, how can you be so sure? And I felt like, well, one, because this guy who I know and love, I feel like kind of showed me, and even though I already had a belief in an afterlife, it kind of solidified it by how amazing he felt and what he was saying to me. So I eventually told that story. And I, and others too, others, the angel story, the miracle story, because it's what shaped me. That's why I believe what I believe.
Yes. And I say to people who are skeptics, hey, start praying and see for yourself. I'm not here to convince you, but here to share with you what I've witnessed. And I found too, I've had enough stories. In fact, we'll talk about it maybe backstage, but literally one of my dead bosses just gave me notes on my show the other day.
Wow.
through one of our local, mediums that we have here on our team. So it was pretty amazing. And so like her to be giving her opinion around from the dead, and it was totally her, and I kind of have a witness around it. So I've had so much proof of the other side. It's not even funny, to the point of I've relaxed tremendously as well. Those things you just cannot deny. The experiences you cannot, turn your back on. You have to take it as a grain of salt. But I would imagine, I'll just say this as something interesting. We have Pluto going to Aquarius here, and in our speak, it means, I don't know how much you know about astrology. I'll assume nothing here, so the audience can understand. That once Pluto goes into Aquarius, Pluto is sort of an agent that opens up and closes doors. Pluto is the agent of death. So you're working with Pluto on death. Pluto is what draws the lines in consciousness. And Scorpios are the rulers of Pluto, so you are an agent of Pluto on the planet. Yes.
I know Scorpio.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That part I knew. Okay. But I also know, I was like, oh, look at that. I mean, it's just staff. I'm like, of course it's Scorpio, So, because I quite often find doulas or Scorpios, I swear to God, or Sun in the 8th house, like there's something about that line and defining that line. Well,
so interesting.
What Pluto says is as it goes through Aquarius, these lines between dimensions become thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And so for the next 24 years, these dimensions are going to start to open up according to astrology. And you're going to be one of the few people to be eyewitness to that, which I mean, for instance, they may come to a point where you're seeing their dead loved ones too.
Right.
Where, so it's the common person is also witnessing these shifts in dimensions. So it'd be interesting to see. You're on the precipice of an amazing journey, really.
Yeah.
And you're coming out of one age and moving into another. So it'd be interesting to hear about what you'll have to come back and tell us
I
how
know.
things
Yeah,
changed.
yeah. We'll have
I would
to see.
imagine
We'll have to see.
that moment too of like sharing that experience with him is pretty profound. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. From what I understand about consciousness, he was thinking of you in his heart. So from what I hear, if you heard this before, when you're passing on, whoever's in your heart, you can visit very easily. So people visit people in their heart. And so, this is why people make appearances. Like my grandfather appeared in a dream to me, like around 4 a.m. I woke up and at 4 a.m. he's offering me all the junk in his garage. I'm like, I don't want any of that shit, Grandpa. He's like, all right. He closed the garage. To come to find out, my brother had a literal appearance in the room, same time, in a different time zone. Grandpa appeared to him in the room and said goodbye. So there was appearance. Grandpa said goodbye to many people that I think were in his heart. They're like, we have one brother's like, can you say thank you, goodbye to me? We're like, yeah. It's like, yeah, because you're always a troublemaker.
You always had favorites. No.
Yeah, totally. Well, they do. You can't help it. And I think there's bonds there before, that lead to that. So I would just imagine that you're in his heart. And so you're easy to walkie-talkie to. Do you hear stories of that from family members that their parents, appeared to them later or spoke to them in a dream?
So unfortunately, I haven't heard many. I'm sure this happens, but I haven't heard many from my patients who have already died. The main things I hear from about like seeing things are from my patients before they die, and they're talking about, I was scared, but then my parents came to me last night. They came to me last night and said, I'm not
Oh,
leaving yet, but they're going to come get me soon and not to worry. So I've heard stuff like that. I mean, over and over and over again. But as far as like my patients who have already died and then their families, I have not.
yeah.
But that means nothing. I know that happens. It just means that they didn't tell me. Yeah.
Well, it's upon death. So, I mean, at that point, you're wrapping up, moving on to the next
Yeah.
client,
It is crazy how quickly you just sort of move on. You really do.
Yeah. Reset the stage. And, I mean, this is a constant, being in the death business is one of the best businesses there is because there's always, one thing guaranteed, right? That and taxes.
Yeah.
What about regrets? What do you think, when people are dying, what are the most common regrets they're sharing with you about their life that we can all take to heart?
The one that I hear the most that I don't hear other people talking about is people regretting that they didn't appreciate their health when they had it. So that is the main thing I hear all of my patients saying, like, I wish I would have, and they don't say it like that. They say like, I wish I would have appreciated when I felt hungry, like now they have no appetite, and that's okay.
Wow.
That's okay. But they miss like feeling hungry.
Yeah.
Or like, I wish I didn't I wish I realized how amazing it was to be able to get up and walk around the block. I
Yeah.
wish, or if they're having pain, I wish I didn't take for granted all those years I lived without pain.
Yeah.
So it's usually about that. That's the first one I always hear.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other ones are the ones that a lot of people say, other people say too, is like, they wish they didn't work so much. They wish they didn't wait to like start living until after they retired. They wish they didn't live someone else's life, their parents wanted them to do X, Y, and Z. So they did X, Y, and Z. And then they always relationships too. I wish I would have made up with someone sooner. I should have called them sooner. I should have seen this person more. So things like that. Yeah.
Got you. Roger. Interesting. So I guess given that, I mean, as an individual, a human being that we are, how do we plan for our own death? I mean, we know the taxes in the state and things like that, but it seems like you are living a life that we all want to live. You're taking the small moments, you're enjoying the small moments, but you're witnessing death every day. What can you impart to us as far as, what might help us live a happier life upon approaching death?
I know this might sound crazy to people, but this has helped me. So hear me out. First, hear me out. So I have really tried to, and now that I do it a lot, it doesn't take as much, but like the way I first started was like really contemplating, what if I were dead in 6 months? What if tomorrow I got the news and I'm dead and I know I'm going to live, but only for 6 more months? And I think people are afraid to really think about that, but that has really helped me see where my priorities are, what sounds important to me, what I would want to do. And a lot of those things that you want to do, you can't really do because you're not actually you don't actually know if you're dying in 6 months. So you can't quit your job
Right.
and just go travel the world and all,
Right.
world and all the
Don't,
things, right?
yeah.
But it helps you see that maybe you're not fully present in the moment that you're in and the life that you're in, right? So that has helped me kind of shape being able to be thankful, knowing that I'm not likely going to be dead in 6 months, right? And if that's the case, then like, what do I want to do with today? Like, how do I want to be today? Do I want to give over my worries to something else? Like, do I want to, like I said, enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the coffee? Like, there's something to me about really contemplating the fact that like I could be dead in 6 months, then not being dead, and being able to be like, wow, okay, here I am. Like, here's this table in front of me. Like, I'm grateful for the microphone. I'm grateful that I'm here talking to you, that I have like water right here. That to me is living. That to me is what life is about being in the moment here now. And I think contemplating your immortality can really help you do that.
Yeah, I'll end with this. The power of Scorpio, or the line, actually increases the value. When you are clear on when something is going to end, then the value can rise. If you're not clear on when something's going to end, the value cannot rise because you don't know how limited you are. Because based in the world of supply and demand, it's all based on when it ends. So to know the end is actually to make what you want happen faster.
There you
So,
go. There
yeah.
it is. There it is.
Yeah. From Scorpio to Taurus here.
Are you a Taurus? My
Yeah, I'm a
sister's
Taurus.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
sister's a Taurus.
Your sister?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, yeah, 0 is the beginning and 10 is the manifestation. From 0 to 10, we manifest in the energy. So,
Oh.
yeah, that's where Scorpios and Tauruses work well together because I'm not good at the zeros. My brother will tell me, my triple Scorpio brother, like, bro, drop the zeros. So thank you for helping us find the end. And just so you know, people can follow you on social media. You have an amazing book. You also do online coursework. Is that true?
I'm starting to. So that's something that's coming up. So eventually, if you go to hospicenursejulie.com, you can always just find me on social media, Hospice Nurse Julie, anywhere you get your social media. But eventually, that's my next big thing is starting to do coursework where I'll teach people, not privately, but, in classes. That's to come. That's to come.
That's great. I think it's wonderful. Pass on your wisdom. And I think you're a great role model to other people going in that profession as well. And there are a lot of people who I meet who want to go in that profession and don't know how to. What do you think to be the first step of someone who wants to specialize in what you do?
Well, if you're not a nurse yet, become a nurse. And I think people get really they're like, oh, I couldn't do that. I am telling you, you'd be surprised. I just feel like you'd be surprised. It's not as it just takes. 3-4 years will go by like that. So I feel like if you really wanted to be a nurse and be a hospice nurse, just do it. Just do it. Now, if you're already a nurse and you are afraid to move around because you've been at the same job, the same hospital for 20 years, the best thing I ever did my entire life was move around. I made nursing work for me. If you are in the chat or listening to this and you're a nurse that is sick of what you're doing, or you feel burnt out, you feel like you made the wrong choice, know that I have felt that too. I felt very burnt out and like I should never have been a nurse. What was I thinking? And then I got the courage to move around and try different things. And now I truly am living a life beyond my wildest dreams, like for real, for real. And nursing is a part of that. And, 8 years ago, I thought I hated nursing. Compassion fatigue. I was burnt out. So move around. And the best way you can do that is just jump. Just do it. Apply for jobs. We're nurses. We're needed everywhere.
Okay, yeah. we're in a real loss from my understanding. It's hard to staff up anywhere, and so a lot of nurses who were kind of disenchanted from COVID, this might be a great outlet for them. So thank you. Well, thank you for coming on, Julie. It's been such a pleasure. You lived up to everything. A lot of people in our chat know you and follow you already, so you have some fans here.
Guys, I love that. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's part of the new you and where you're going. And if you don't mind staying backstage, we'll have a word with you before we leave.
Great. Thanks so much. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Julie McFadden, everyone. Thank you. All righty. Well, that was wonderful. Really appropriate. You know what's funny? I don't think we did not plan. I have to talk to Diane, our producer. I don't think we planned to have someone who's crossing over right on the beginning of Scorpio. What's interesting about how this show is sort of just guided by spirit in the sense that, yes, right before Scorpio, we have this particular practitioner and we talk about the end of things. It's so amazing how that works out. So Thanks to my staff and everyone on board who was listening to their spirit to find out. As we wrap up here, a couple of things. One, I want to remind you that I am doing a webinar coming up in a couple of weeks. It's going to help you with Pluto and a workshop for your Pluto. So Pluto's Last Stand webinar is on November 2nd. And you can also purchase a first class ticket, so to speak, to make sure you have a question answer, because that's one of the problems we have. So trying to eliminate stuff. But this is a workshop. This is where you grab your chart, you bring it to class. We'll walk through different things. My little formula for showing up your Pluto and preparing you for Pluto in Aquarius. Sign up now, especially the questions won't go long for long. I only have limited numbers of questions that can be asked. And that is, of course, at senseiChristopher.com, or also click on the QR code at the bottom. QR code, sorry. And then Leaning Out Loud has gone through some changes in the last 24 hours. Again, we lost a couple of people at Serious Joy, and one great talent that we lost on LOL was actually Christopher Reck and Devin Dewar. They both moved on to other soul assignments. But my friend and my psychic friend Scott Cruz and I are buddying it up here, and we went with our first episode yesterday called Lightworker Ethics. We're actually changing up Leaning Out Loud. Now, it will continue to be live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And Scott and I are going to have other light workers on and other guests on as well. In fact, if you're a light worker that might want to be on, then we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at support@seriousjoy.com and just put in the hashtag LOL. So that show is up, by the way, and watch it. Tell me what you guys think of it. It changes the energy to have 2 versus 4. We kind of like the way it's turned out. It's cool. Now, free to the public, we also have changes. It's now called the Daily Miniscope, and it's with Sensei Christopher and myself. So we had our daily download is changed now to the Miniscope, where we have a little Miniscope on the front page for free at seriousjoy.com. So if my face wasn't enough places, but I'll be sharing the Miniscopes also with our other staff members. We have a couple new staff members onboarding as well, such as Gwendolyn English and Daiki Okamoto. So we have been training in the step system in the background, and so you're going to start to see a new wave of Serious Joy practitioners. But notice it's free, 7 days a week, short and sweet, the Miniscope, right on the homepage of seriousjoy.com. This week, we also have on our SeriousJoy.tv palette the Self-Study Hall, which is a program where once a month we do an education. And this Self-Study Hall is going to, I think we're jumping ahead here. Do we have Self-Study Hall available by chance for the graphic? There we go. Looks like Robbie. See, Robbie's all over the place too. Self-Study Hall is going to be Pluto and Aquarius. Robbie Hunt, our lead astrologer at Serious Joy, is going to be diving deep in what Pluto Aquarius means. This will be an in-depth show that will go live at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday, October 23rd. And if you are subscribers, you just click Edutainment and then Live Theater, and she'll be in the Live Theater. Robbie's a phenomenal teacher. She goes way deep, and she usually pulls in the last time and the time before that Pluto's in Aquarius. So y'all make sure you drink some coffee. This is going to be some heavy truth, and you'll see where it applies in your chart. Again, that's free to subscribers who join SeriousJoy.com. And then lastly, the graphic that we came before, the new Zodiac Mega Monthly Reports and Zodiac Mega Monthly Show are going to be live on the 1st of November. This is now a tag team between myself and Robbie Hunt. We love this dialogue between the two of us. We're both talking about the month of Scorpio. There's a full show that goes over the entire month, and then there are individual horoscopes for each of the 12 signs. Again, all live on the 1st. The theme of the month is balancing on a tight wire. We think that Scorpio is going to be quite a balancing act, and we dive down for all 12 signs what that means. You can, of course, also watch your rising sign and your moon sign if you want to get deep on yourself. All right, friends. Well, sharing is caring. The most grateful thing you can do for us is to just share us with friends and family. Get them here to find a horoscope that comes out on Tuesdays. The individual horoscopes do. We will be splitting the shows up here between Astro Mingle and Namaste Today Live. So, it'll be easier, for someone. They won't see it as a 3-hour venture here. But sharing is caring. It's the best thing you can do for us, and we appreciate you and give gratitude for that. Also, hang out in our Facebook group at SeriousJoy.club. This is a group that is maintained by volunteers around the world. We keep all the bots out, we keep all the bugs out, and we keep it clean. We also encourage you to advertise your own lightwork business, as Serious Joy wants to be a ground zero for other lightwork practitioners and to help other lightworkers come into their power. SeriousJoy.club is a great place to start. About 18,000 followers in that club right now. If you want to follow me on other social media, come to seriousjoy.social. That's where you'll find where we are appearing in different places. Soon to open up a lot in 2025. And if you'd rather listen instead of watch, we heard that we were down. We're back up now. So if you've been having to watch here and want to listen, we got it fixed. Thanks, Morgan. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. That's the audio-only version, so you can listen while you do other things. Many people say that. I want to give a special thanks in my heart to our producer, Diane DeStefano. She's awesome. Our graphics, casting, and chat moderation is Nina K. Say hey to Nina K if you're in the chat. Our multiverse master director is Adam Turner. It's always a pleasure to work with you, sir. And our teaching staff, Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Joe Zammett, Gwen English, and Daiki Okamoto. We're so grateful that you're with us in this next term. And of course, we have our super friends. We can bring them on screen here. I see all of you in tonight. I saw Sydney. I saw Princess Coffee Bean. I saw Jill Louise also. Thank you, Jill, for showing up every week. Daryl Blankenship, it's nice to see you. Neptune Girl, I saw you all the time. Kristen Kelly, I haven't seen you in a while. Sydney, I saw you for sure. Iggy, I saw you the whole time. I didn't realize you were not born in the United States. You were talking about that tonight, so I am watching. And Nitu, and lots of things to talk about with Nitu. By the way, we'll keep an eye out for those who keep coming and showing us up every week, and we'll start giving you shout-outs as well. We want to say thank you to all those who help us. All right, friends, that's all we have for another week. I'll be back in 1 week when we're in the depths of Scorpio and fortifying our roots. Until then, please remember, I love you. Live, love, be.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.